You're listening to the Nerd to Know Media Network. Join us at nerdtoknowmedia.com.
Broadcasting from the Blanchardstown Centre, this is Phoenix FM.
This is 92.5 Phoenix FM, community radio for Dublin 15.
Hey everybody, it's JB Jeremy Borash, and you are listening to Darrow O'Connor on the...
Welcome to the Wrestling Rewind, the only wrestling podcast by fans who don't hate wrestling.
Hello everybody, welcome to Phoenix 92.5 FM. It is Tuesday, which means you're listening to the Wrestling Rewind. My name is Darragh O'Connor, and we have a very special show this week. But before we introduce our guest, he's on the line. You know him, you love him. 1-0, Mr. Undefeated, Martin Herty. How are things, Martin? Punk still hasn't accepted your challenge. What's going on?
He's run off the collision. He could have come down 1-on-1, the town square in Crossmaglen. It was all set up, and he's run off the collision. You know, but I'm not feeling particularly undefeated at the moment. I had my first jiu-jitsu class back in about a year, literally first class back, and I've managed to screw up my neck. So,
well, then it's fair. Now you just need somebody to bite your opponents allegedly, and you're okay. So you're good. I still think you should issue the challenge. Maybe get free seats over in collision. It works.
Hey, if nothing else, yeah, jump the rail.
But it's not yourself and myself. Dave is still off in the void, Martin. We don't know where Dave is. Hopefully he's off in the odyssey of glass and light tubes, watching his death matches with his small child.
These children, they fairly ruin the crack.
I'm telling you, it's his daughter's gonna be bloodthirsty, man. Like legitimately, like she's gonna be raised on death matches. So anyway, so we're not alone this week. We are joined by two very special guests, Colin, aka Macho Max, and Tristan from Cell Games. Lads, welcome to the show.
Thank you very, very much for having us. We're really excited to be here.
So if you guys aren't familiar with Cell Games, you should be. They're a fantastic Irish band. Metal to the Masses finalists, lads. Well done.
Thank you very much.
It's some debut that you've actually had onto the scene. So, it caught me off guard initially because I wasn't at your heats initially, and then Angel from Cosmo Palace was like, "They make music from SmackDown versus Raw." It's like, yeah, listen. I was like, that's exactly what it is. So, lads, yeah, tell us about the band and where we can listen and all that good stuff.
I suppose you can listen on Spotify. Just look up Cell Games. We're on all the socials. We're on the socials now as cellgames.mp3 because we lost control of the old Instagram and that's gone forever. So we're trying to rebuild that. So it's very important that everyone goes follow at cellgames.mp3. But then it's even more important to go stream on Spotify, just regular old Cell Games.
Absolutely, regular old Cell Games.
Yeah. And it's not called that, it's just called Cell Games, just so you're not confusing people.
Absolutely. I am thinking though, we may have an album called Raised by Death Matches. I'm jotting that one down. Isn't that a great album name?
You can have that one. You can have that one.
Dara, I wouldn't like to kick this off on the wrong foot by insulting our guests, but I have to say I kind of have a bone to pick with them. For 4 days now. Here's to Your Bones has been doing a loop in my head. 4 days now.
They're catchy little tunes. They're catchy little tunes, and that's the thing.
I already listened to it 4 days ago.
Well, that's all we can ask. In that case, that's all we can ask.
So lads, the style of music that you play, it's so incredibly unique. I mean, it literally sounds like it's from 15 years ago in the best possible way. What was like the influence and how did you get started? Like how did that conversation come up? Because I know playing black metal, that was a conversation. So how did your conversation come up, and how did you guys get together?
I thought myself and Tristan essentially bonded. Our wrestling connection came first, I think, because Tristan called himself on something Edge and Tristan, and I thought that was the funniest thing I'd ever heard in my life. And that's the start of a beautiful friendship right there.
I think so. I think musically, the first thing we did was I went to like one of your gigs and we were doing something else, like maybe nearly 10 years ago. I was pissed drunk, and I had this like idea where I was going to be playing Blood Sugar Sex Magic all the way through, but I had like no members, or I kind of had members. I looked after the gig, is like, "You, hello, yes, I don't know your name, but you're my Anthony Kiedis now," and you're like, "Yeah, sure, grand, okay." And then there was no discussion of Anthony for like 3 years, but then we actually did music 4 or 5 years after that. It was 2018 anyway. One of my other high concept things was I wanted to do a gig where we played Hybrid Theory all the way through on Chester Bennington's anniversary, and we actually pulled that one off. And it was after the first year or after the second year where I was like messaging you and just being like, "Here, what if we did more new metal, but not this?"
Like, what if we do this but better?
Yeah, like new metal gets a really bad reputation, and I don't think it's justified, really, because I mean, we're all of the same age where we were raised on it. And I don't know if you guys are a big fan of Edema, the bands that were around for like a second. You know, they did the Mortal Kombat song. You're shaking your head, kind of like, you know, absolute banger of a tune.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, I think it's great. Go on, sorry.
Well, I was going to say all of those one and done ones like Trust Company and Taproot, and you know they were kind of they were around with a few banger tunes, and then they kind of just blended into the background.
36 Crazy Fist as well, yes. Another one where it's just like, oh, they had this tune and gone.
Have they not come back since?
They probably have, but you only know the one tune that they had back in 2005.
Do you know who I bloody loved? I saw them open for Papa Roach, and they dropped one great album, and I've never heard of them again. Hell is for Heroes.
Yes, they were absolutely brilliant. That first, I remember they were playing in front of like a spiral. Your man had a big long jumper with big long sleeves. That was an absolute banger of a tune.
Yeah, the what is it called? The Neon Handshake was. I remember the album and everything.
Brilliant, really good.
But yeah, like, so when you're again, like, I'm not overselling it. There literally is no other new metal band in the Irish scene at the moment. And that kind of speaks volumes to the fact that it's so, well, I know there's been a few that's kind of flirted with it, but you guys are like, it's a straight time travel back. And it's class because you're like, there's literally like nothing drives me more, and this isn't a jab at anybody, but nothing drives me more when I go see a band playing it's lads in t-shirts. I'm like, what is going on? I want a show. You know, if I have to wear paint and have a shower, paint is falling down after I come back, I expect the same, and you guys deliver. You guys deliver in spades. It's class. And I mean, Colin, I feel bad for you because the first time I interacted with you, I was shouting abuse locked at you because you started like shouting Cody Rhodes stuff, and I'm like, I hate Cody Rhodes.
Listen, we're talking about starting this off on a bad note.
Well, it's going to happen anyway.
You're dear to my heart.
That's fair. That's fair. You can be wrong, but that's okay.
Half the podcast is Dara explaining in great detail how much he hates Cody Rhodes. and the other half, weirdly, is him explaining how much he loves Stardust.
Really? That's true. That's interesting because I also love Stardust. So where did the split happen here?
See, I love Stardust. Dashing Cody Rhodes was incredible. And what was the other one? Damaged Cody Rhodes. He was also class.
Cody Rhodes, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that was all amazing.
Little Tash Cody Rhodes as well was also great.
But that was also great.
Little Tash Cody Rhodes.
I'll tell you where the problem became.
Cody Chaplin.
Where the problem happened was there was a show where Cody decided to put a throne up and then break the throne. And that's when it happened because what
Martin kind of farted.
No, what Martin didn't tell you was Triple H is the greatest wrestler of all time.
Oh, absolutely.
You're damn right Martin didn't tell you that.
And that's like cannot be forgiven. So,
but they're getting on great now.
While we're on
yeah.
that subject, lads, who would your favorite wrestlers be?
That's true. It's a good question, actually.
God, Tristan, what do you look like you've something you're itching to get out.
Do you?
It was Kane back when I got into it. Kane was like my guy.
Oh, well, he's on the show. He's just not Kane.
He's just not Kane, yeah.
Sorry, come on.
Yeah, he's not so much my guy now. It's all gone a bit weird.
Oh, yeah. No, that's fair, yeah.
But I don't know. It's very hard to have favorites because all these guys let you down. You know.
That's true.
And is it Kane the character, or are you just like a big Glenn Jacobs guy?
That's a fair split.
That
yeah.
is that
That's
behind
fair.
you? Is that a Dr. Isaac Yankem poster behind you?
I wish that'd be so niche. I'd be so into that. No, it's just Kane. But
Or fake Diesel.
Very narrow
Diesel.
Kane as well.
You which, sir?
But Kane, just like a very narrow period of Kane was the best.
So which period was it? Was it before he had the sleeves or no sleeves?
No sleeves, singlet Kane.
Single Kane. Yeah. I tell you one thing.
Oh, so not like debut tearing the door off the cell Kane.
I kind of missed that by like a year or two. So
Right.
by the time I got into it, he was already like black gear, singlet Kane.
But see, that's probably. I think you're right there, Tristan, because we've watched a couple of matches with Kane, and he gets more athletic as he kind of goes on, and then settles into having these banger cage matches where he's jumping off the top doing clotheslines and everything. So I mean, that's not a bad show. That's not a bad show. It does go down from there. Then he takes the mask off and babies get kicked, and
Yeah.
And Snitsky didn't do it.
What about you, Colin?
Wheel. Yeah, I'm a Macho Man Randy Savage guy. I absolutely love Macho Man. I'm my kind of area of music of wrestling is 87 to 97 is my mastermind years. I love
Golden years.
Yeah, absolutely. I started off loving basically kind of WrestleMania 3 on video. Macho Man Randy Savage against Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, and I just loved that. Just the whole entrance and that match was just incredible, like for watching it at the time. But then
one of the very few matches from maybe the first 5 WrestleManias that still holds up.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. But the funny thing about that is it's such a short match as well. You know, it's maybe 11 minutes. It's short, like compared to, you know, well, it's long for anything else in that card. Put 35 matches on and they're all 4 minutes long. Here comes Hercules. But you know, it's just like it's a very interesting style of wrestling because in the day we were just getting videos of Hulk Hogan in cage matches. You know, remember the stuff like that. And I remember for years I thought that the next time I kind of interacted with wrestling was WrestleMania 5, but it wasn't. When me and Tristan recently talked about this, it was Saturday night's main event where Macho King Randy Savage was against against Hulk Hogan with Buster Douglas as the special guest referee. And I remember watching that in the old Pear's pub that he used to own in Athlone. Because it was on, you know, on the old like Sky Sports, or I think it was Sky Movies Plus. Like that's how old I am. But
it wasn't even box office. It was like
it wasn't. No, but Sky Movies Plus, I think, was the name of it. It was Sky Movies with various football matches and the odd wrestling. Yeah.
Oh wow.
So there was that, and then WCW started on ITV, and we kind of just went into the era of watching worldwide for 3 or 4 years until we got Sky back again.
Isn't it mad like that? Like WCW had such a big following here, despite the fact how weird it actually was. Because when I was watching WCW as a kid, it was on Bravo.
Yeah,
and you'd be switching between, and Nitro and Raw were on around the same time on a Friday night. Like, you know, so you'd be flicking between Nitro and Raw during the Monday Night Wars for some reason on a Friday night in the UK.
On a Friday night, yeah.
Which was weird.
Well, it was gas because when I think it was on, wasn't it TCM, Turner Classic Movies?
Yeah.
And Turner Classic Movies would show the latest Nitro at this, and you'd watch the first hour of that, then you'd watch 2 hours of Raw, and then you'd watch You'd watch Thunder or a really old episode of Nitro. Every so often they just throw on a really old episode of Nitro, like that wouldn't have been shown. So you'd see like all of the weird Dungeon of Doom crap. And I remember watching one night. God, it was absolutely fantastic. We taped on a video. It was me, Gene Okerlund was interviewing Macho Man Randy Savage, and he was like, WCW President Doug Dillinger has ordered you to get psychiatric treatment. And Macho Man was like, yeah, I went to see a woman psychiatrist and she said I was OCD. That's right. One cool dude. And you catch all of these on video because you'd be flicking between the channels. Like,
Yeah.
So you have this mishmash of like 3 different wrestling shows on the one night on a video.
You can fairly tell the lads who grew up with some version of Sky TV. So I grew up on a farm in South Armagh. So my wrestling, like for the whole first, 18 years of my life, was all from VHS tapes that I got from the library across McGlen.
Really?
So then WCW came on. Oh, yeah, was it ITV? It came on at one stage. Yeah. And I was watching it, and I was a young fellow watching it, and Hulk Hogan was there, and I definitely recognized Hulk Hogan, but I had no idea what the goddamn hell WCW was. Like, it was, I'd only ever, like, the tapes in the library were only ever WWF, but I was a huge Bret Hart fan anyway, and I went to university, and it had moved from DVDs to from VHS to DVDs at this stage, and someone said, "Oh, I have a Bret Hart DVD you can have." I said, "Oh, brilliant!" And they gave me Wrestling with Shadows, and that was when I learned about the screw job. I didn't even know what had happened.
Absolutely,
I was just appalled.
Here's one for you. Do you remember back in the day when you could on the portable TVs that you would tune in? You would actually be able to watch scrambled Sky Sports.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think it's a credit to Jim Ross and the King, because you could actually just not watch it, have it on in the background, and know what was going on. Absolutely. And that was also how a lot of early wrestling was done for me as well as a kid. Because you didn't have Sky in all the rooms; you had it in one room, so you had to make do.
Well, didn't they even dabble with the WWF radio at one stage?
They did.
That's what, and then you have Live Wire as well. And he had Live Wire as well, which was kind of like a move away from that. And on this show, I didn't realize they had this all the way back in 1996. They had a phone line where they were cutting promos either through a phone, which is hilarious. I mean, sorry for jumping ahead, but that's like, when I saw that, I was like, that's the funniest thing I think I've ever seen in my life. But yeah.
Jim Ross absolutely living his life on that phone line.
Oh, man.
Living his best life.
Oh, God, it was great. You know, it's funny because like wrestling now is so different than it was, like being a fan, because like obviously the internet wasn't a thing in Ireland. Like, well, it was, but it wasn't. Like, it was dialed up, and then it wasn't until like 2005. So we were talking about Cyber Sunday and Taboo Tuesday, and you couldn't vote on those because you didn't have the internet. It wasn't until like 2006, 2007 you could actually like vote on it, and then it was
you had to. Okay. Didn't you have to figure out a way to get around your school's blocker to get onto the website and vote on it?
Oh yeah, that was no problem. Like even back then, that was no problem. But oh yeah, that was funny. But yeah, so that's where we are, lads. Thanks so much for being on the show, and let's get into the pick that you actually went for, which was a weird one. I'm not gonna lie to you, it was a weird one. It was In Your House, 1996, Buried Alive. So this is some background on the show. This is the very first Buried Alive pay-per-view, the very first Buried Alive match, the very first non-sanctioned match, which was a weird way to put it. And it's a nice tight show. It's only like 2 hours, so that was cool. And yeah, so this is from Indianapolis, Indiana, October 1996, and the tagline is "Dead Man's Paradise, Dead or Alive, Dead, Darkness, and Destruction of Mankind." Strange, but okay. Dead or Alive is, I just think about the video game, but okay.
Sponsored by PlayStation.
Yeah, it's sponsored by PlayStation. That's probably why.
Is that what made you lads pick this? That all the all the taglines are like sound like death metal, album names.
I'll tell you. The reason why we went with this was we were. I was kind of like saying to Tristan, do we go with something that's just terrible, like Uncensored 95 and the Alliance to Kill Hulkamania? And Tristan was like, maybe not that bad.
That's rewatchable still, like.
Yeah, no, look, as a podcast that does flirt with that, it's better to have something really terrible or something really good, because if it's kind of in the middle, it's no fun. And that's when it's a case of, when are they going to get to the fireworks factory where we avoid talking about it.
It's 90 minutes, me and Dara sitting here going, what do you think of that? that was grand. It was grand, yeah. And the next match, it was fine. It was fine.
So I do think this was a really interesting pay-per-view, though. This was there's an awful lot of meat on the bone just for what's happening at the time, and where people have come to, where people are going to end up. Some really, really weird stylistic choices in a lot of heel versus heel matches. Stuff that you'd never see. Just messing around with Jim Ross's microphone. Just it's a weird. We are trying to do something a little bit different kind of pay-per-view.
And in an hour and 50 minutes, I have more notes for this pay-per-view, an hour and 50 minutes, than I have for the combined Cyber Sunday series.
Well, look, pretty much everything you brought up there, Colin, is kind of what I wanted to touch on. So it's firmly, it's not in the Attitude Era yet. It's nearly there. It's edging it, and you can really kind of see that's where they're going. It's the first appearance of Austin's glass break. It's hilarious. Well, it's bizarre. Actually, not even hilarious. It's bizarre to see the crowd just not react to that.
Because it's really weird. It's actually as well. It's just like it's supposed to be the glass breaks. Everyone loses their mind.
Yeah, and it's just crickets.
And it's a new song as well, like on a pay-per-view. So it starts and everyone's like, who? Oh, yeah. Right. Oh, it's him. Yeah. We're indifferent to him, kind of. We kind of like him.
Yeah,
kind of.
And then when he wins, the crowd are just sitting there, and there's some guy that with a mullet who 2 years later will be a fan of him. It just nothing. And I was like, this is hilarious. Sadly, though, Martin, I wasn't able to catch any good signs in this. So what we tried to do was we tried to pick signs. So if you guys spotted anyone's, let us know.
Do you know what? I think signs at this stage were very much The Undertaker will make you rest in peace. There was nothing in any way interesting. It was all like,
but it's such a wild pivot, like from 1996. Like you say, those signs are very much just toeing the line, to 97, 98, where it's just extreme homophobia mostly.
But you know what? It's funny because even at the start where he's like, Savio Vega, didn't come over because, he was afraid to, because obviously Savio Vega was injured. Well, it was supposed to be Austin and Savio Vega, but Savio Vega was injured. And when Austin starts to swear, McMahon is right in there, because it just wasn't done like in WWF at the time. It was like, the real potty mouth reactions.
Yeah.
And it's exactly what got Austin over, is that people were like, oh, can you say that? Maybe I can say that too.
It was like, it reminded me of, I think there's a Family Guy sketch about like from the Victorian era, and this woman in the Victorian era is a real slut because she's showing off her ankles. Whereas in this it was like Austin swearing. What did he say? To kiss my ass.
And it's like, whoa.
It's like, we don't say that here.
If it's allowed on Phoenix FM, it's not that bad.
Absolutely. You know what's interesting about that whole situation is that it's really the very, very, very beginning of Austin versus McMahon. It's Austin swears on TV and McMahon is like, oh, you can kind of trace it back to then. But it's also kind of interesting because with, as you said, that the glass shatters music coming in, I was actually kind of fond of I call it the Chili McFreeze music. The Ice Dagger music, it actually, because I watched because I have a big collection of WWF VHS, and I watched King of the Ring 96, and it just wasn't in my head that he didn't have that music. And by by the final, by the time he was winning, like you just always imagine that when he cuts that Austin 316 music, that the promo, that music is there, and it's not. It's the the almost a take on Mankind's music. You know what I mean? So it's just odd to not have that there.
It's bizarre, even the early days of Austin, when he's using like the $1 million sleeper as his finisher.
That's more bizarre. It's more bizarre. It's for some reason that's more bizarre than when he had loads of hair. Like that's less weird to me than when he's using holds, because obviously he was a great wrestler, and even in this match, Owen Hart hadn't crippled him yet, so he was like actually a really, really good wrestler. And it's just weird to see him. It's like, whoa, I think we really were shortchanged Austin at his prime. But again, Colin, as you said, what got him over was, being a brawler who swore a lot and drank beer. That was what got him over, So, I mean, it kind of is what it is, But okay, we're kind of jumping ahead there a bit. So the buy rate is the attendance is just under 10,000. So it's not huge. It's by WCW standards in the latter period, it's still not great. By TNA standards from last week, Martin, it's 10 times that. So, Martin made the mistake of wanting to see an ECW show run by ECW people.
I didn't want to. I made a comment, and Dara, with his superior wrestling knowledge, latched upon it and said, "I'm going to turn your words against you," and did so in spectacular fashion.
Yes, hardcore justice. It's a thing to behold.
It's a hardcore injustice.
That was the basically TNA's version of ECW One Night Stand. Yeah. And it was just like all the old out of shape, like except for Stevie Richards, who was in amazing shape.
And PJ Palacco.
Yeah.
Let's not shortchange PJ Palacco.
Absolutely. The Portuguese man of war.
The WWE One Night Stand and the TNA One Night Stand were very different one night stands. And
absolutely.
I believe we've all had experience of both kinds of one night stands.
One is one you tell your mates about, the other one you drink away in shame. Anyway. So as you said, this show was very weird from the get-go. It had Hunter Hearst Helmsley, who would become Triple H, the greatest wrestler of all time, against Stone Cold Steve Austin as the opener. That's a sentence.
Not only that, I have an interesting little sidebar on that I found today, because as I tell you, I collect many VHS.
So folks,
okay.
He's holding a classic VHS copy
I am
of this
indeed.
pay-per-view.
And I'm going to describe this. Not only, right, every single match has little pictures. Sorry, my sexy light here is blinding the box. But you have everything, and then you have a tiny little line at the bottom that says, plus Hunter Hearst Helmsley versus Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Wow.
And a tiny little line under the pictures of everyone else on the pay-per-view.
Sir, I wish to buy your VHS.
Like, that's weird, because like Mark Merrow was featured.
Yeah.
The
absolutely.
Smoking Guns are featured. That's insane. Insane.
Daddy Ass is a star. Okay.
Listen.
Don't you be talking about Daddy Ass.
Do you know what? Sonny was trying to get her some scissor and some daddy ass at this pay-per-view.
These are wrestling terms, Phoenix FM.
Yes.
These are wrestlers. These are
Don't.
these are not lewd acts.
Absolutely. If it's on a t-shirt, it's okay.
That's true. Okay, so Austin comes out, and he's not a face, he's not a heel, he's kind of in between. Hunter Hearst Helmsley is very much a heel at this point, because JR, his mic is coming on and off the whole time. Vince McMahon is on commentary, and then we have like controlled King. He's not like deviant yet. He's just kind of like, really lecherous. In the pocket of like, he's not even lecherous. Even when when Sable comes out.
I was actually surprised when Sonny and Sable were out. I was surprised how restrained you were. I was like bracing. I was sat there with my notepad and my pen going, "Go on, King, give me something dirty I can like laugh about on the podcast."
There's only one line in the whole show that I caught from King, actually. And it was a really awkward cut on some young one who looks like could be in Fibbers. Like, just, and he's
I was
like,
literally just about to say it.
yeah, did you get it? Yeah, it's like a
I
really
did.
awkward cut on this, like, attractive looking girl who would, be hanging out at a metal bar. And then King's like, oh, there's lots of creatures around here. I'm like, what's wrong with her? She looks fine. She's
Well,
Like,
there's
nice
another
looking young
moment.
one.
yeah.
There's another moment where, again, it's not even a creepy thing, but it's just a gay in the front row with long hair, and he's like, "Look at that girl!" And then Vince McMahon goes, "Well, I don't think that's a girl." And King just loses his mind. A
just
man
goes,
with long hair. What?
This is like 3
This
times
is
as well, doesn't he? He
this
keeps
is-
picking on this lad.
He was.
He's picking on it. Like he says it more than once as well. Like
He does a whole rant. Like he can't believe. Like imagine him today trying to deal with bathrooms and everything. Like he just.
But hold on,
Like,
on the show, he was supporting Triple H, who has long hair. Like, there's no consistency with King. At least when King becomes lecherous, there's some consistency.
Maybe it was the quality of the hair. Maybe your man in the audience was using like too good of a conditioner.
Oh, okay, that's probably it. That would make
The
sense.
guy in the audience was using like crisp and dry from the looks of the guy.
What is it? What is it called?
Levels of grease.
Tail and mane, maybe.
Yes.
But yeah, it's weird because like the commentary team are like it's Vince, which is very stuck up. But normally I hate Vince's commentary, but for some reason on this show it wasn't as grating as it normally is. And I think it was because they were self-aware of how bad he actually can be. And the whole time, JR was like, that move is called this move is called
fantastic.
and it was fantastic. So I mean,
but Vince plays it safe. See in South Armagh, if you don't know someone's name, you just call them Fiend. Ah, well, Fiend, how Fiend? It's crack Fiend. Vince plays everything safe. He doesn't know the name of any move, so he just goes, unbelievable! What a maneuver! Like it's a headlock.
1, 2, 3, got him. No.
Forget about it.
But yeah, like during this show, for some reason, I think it was. Look, the In Your House shows were known for being a bit different, and they would kind of try stuff. It wasn't like a huge show. It wasn't something, and it was kind of throwaway. I don't think they did another Buried Alive. I think it's the only one that they ever did, isn't it? Not the match, but the pay-per-view.
The actual pay-per-view, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It was actually sandwiched between. It was a funny time for just pay-per-view names because International Incident was the one before that featured no international people in the main event, and the next one was In Your House 12. It's Time, which didn't have Vader in it. So I love Sid and Vader in the main event, but they put Psycho Sid again. Put Psycho Sid in the Vader spot, but they already had the pay-per-view named.
I love when Hacksaw Jim Duggan's in a match, or especially when he's in a tag match, and whoever he's against is also American. For some reason, even the crowd still starts chanting USA, USA, and you're like, all 4 of these people are Yanks.
But here's one for you. Do you remember? This is actually I loved. In WCW, I love Lance Storm's faction of annoying Canadian people, and they made Jim Duggan Canadian. Yeah, and he'd start stamping the foot, and then everyone would start going USA, and then he'd just go, and he'd be like Hulk Hogan shaking the head, but he'd have the 2 hands, and he'd be like, no, and then he'd be like, gonna put the thumb up, and then he'd be like, no, I'm Canadian now.
I'm not allowed to have fun.
Me and Tara did this big long WCW arc. Oh my god, I thought it was never going to end. But every time we reviewed a pay-per-view, it's like, this happened and then this happened. And then Lance Storm came out.
He's like single-handedly saving the pay-per-view, carrying it on his back. No matter how bad it was, that segment was always the best. And that's awesome. That's a credit to him. He's the PJ Polacco of WCW.
Absolutely. And a former tag team partner of PJ Polacco as well.
And no, he wasn't an X Factor. X Factor was X-Pac, PJ Polacco, and
Just
Albert.
Incredible, wasn't it? Oh, it was Just Incredible, nothing.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
Just Incredible is PJ Polacco.
Oh, well, there you go. I'm getting schooled
Basically.
tonight.
But they were the Lance Storm and PJ Polacco were the Impact players in ECW, and Don Marie was their manager. So there you go.
That's true. That is very true.
I've literally just realised I'm the odd one out. I'm the only one here who's not in a band. Unless you count me, once I get a certain amount of whiskey in me, I do whip out my Bowron, whether people like it or not.
I thought you were going to make a draft comment there. I'm Baron Corbin. I'm a free agent. I'm liable to show up anywhere. Watch out, Braun Breaker.
Oh man, Baron Corbin. They're someone with the best finish ever. Sorry, but it's terrible. His finish is cost. What's up, Baron?
So Colin brought something up there that raised the point, and then you brought something up that also made me think of another thing. So earlier you were talking about how this is the first pay-per-view with a Buried Live match, first pay-per-view with Austin's music. This was also the first ever WWF pay-per-view where the current world champion didn't wrestle. And it was also, in terms of being so Colin, you were talking about how this was kind of a wee bit ahead of its time and some of its different ideas, and that this was actually more ahead of its time than we realize, because the Buried Alive match was originally supposed to be a graveyard match, or as they'd call it now, a boneyard match. But it was actually supposed to be like a almost like a cinematic taking place in a graveyard with Undertaker and Mankind, and then they decided that wouldn't, for a main event, that wouldn't really pop the crowd to be watching it on a video. But that's what it was going to be originally.
Because they had learned the hard way about that, because at SummerSlam 96, as much as people watching the Boiler Room Brawl with Undertaker and thing, they were completely like out of the match until they came back through the curtain, and you had the whole swerve with Paul Bearer. But apparently they had VHS players and screens rolled out so people could watch at the front row, because this is not your time at the Titantron, and you may have a big screen somewhere, but to keep people interested throughout that they actually literally rolled out screens so people could watch, which is interesting as well. So no wonder they didn't do it.
Paid for a front row ticket to watch this VHS.
We recorded this earlier. The lads are just in the pub having a couple of pints. Oh no, that's terrible. But and also as well, there's two dark matches that were on afterwards. There was a tag team match and the world title was defended against Goldust.
Yes. So
Goldust did two jobs that night, really. And we didn't get to see that because the show just ends with the hand coming out, and that's kind of where it cuts off, which is weird, but we'll get into it, right? So, lads, as I said, the first match was Austin and Triple H. I'll start with you, Tristan, because I haven't really said that much on it yet. What did you think about this match? Did it surprise you at all?
I thought it was mad seeing Stone Cold when his knees worked and everything, and he was just very early in the match, he takes a big arm drag and takes a big bump off it, and I was like, oh, he's doing it. He's actually going to be doing moves. And it's weird. It's a weird proto Triple H as well. They're still calling them by his full name the whole time, and he's wearing his baggy tights for some reason. And he's got a woman with him. Was that his thing that he brought up? Just women.
Well, see, he inherited the water, and the Godfather inherited the women. That's what happened there. Colin, what about you?
Do you know what? It's very interesting because with Triple H, you can see what would go on to be, trademark moves that he would take. I'm a big fan of Triple H's. The way he sells a slingshot into the post is like nobody else. He goes down with one arm dead, one arm up, and he just absolutely creams it. So after Mr. Perfect interferes, and they go for the fake suplex on the floor, and Austin drags him over and does that. I was just like, God, Triple H at this stage was so absolutely fantastic. It's really one of my favorite eras of Triple H is Triple H after he was forgiven for the curtain call, and he changed. You know, he's at the start of this. He's got the ding, diddle, ding, 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 music, and he's very suave. But they change him up very shortly after this. They have, you know, "Ode to Joy," da, 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 and he's very much, you know, the confident snob. Where he was like a suave or snob in this, but like he's definitely changing up his style to be like less Greenwich Blue Blood, to be in a little bit more aggressive in this, and obviously with Austin as well. Austin, everything is almost there, but the it's so weird to see the stunner without the kick.
Yes,
even though because he flips the bird and there's no kick and it's just down with the stunner. So it's interesting. And also, it's the first time that JR said, Austin calls that the stun gun. The very first mention of the stun gun as well, even though the stunner obviously is there. But the stun gun gets its first mention there as well. And I always love the stun gun.
Oh, wow. Yeah, no, you kind of...
Is stun gun a better name?
No, the stun gun is where he has, the guy is laying on the ropes with his arms out and the head over.
Oh,
and
yeah.
He comes and puts the leg over. Austin calls that the stun gun.
There's the stun gun, and then it would go into the stunner. But he wouldn't
stun
obviously
gun a better name than stunner? I'm a wee bit torn on that.
I don't know. You see, it makes sense if you watch WCW. Stone Cold Steve Austin, but there's the callback, stunning Steve Austin with the stunner. Long-term storytelling.
Just imagine he boots the Rock in the stomach. It's WrestleMania 17. He boots the Rock in the stomach. He hits the third stunner of the match, and JR goes, "Stun gun, stun gun, stun gun."
It does roll off the tongue. Yeah,
I'm a wee bit torn on that one.
No, I'm a big fan of single word finishers. You know, all the gore, pedigree.
Gore, yes.
You know, tombstone.
Well, these are the gore and the pedigree.
Yeah, but you can say it without the there though, and it still works.
Yeah,
it's good for shouting.
Exactly. So yeah, so there was some interference. Mr. Perfect, Austin would get the win, and then it's weird because this match wasn't supposed to happen. It's supposed to be Savio Vega going against Austin, and Triple H was thrown in at the last moment. So I know I'm a bit biased, and I understand that, but I'm so glad Savio Vega wasn't in this match. To be honest with you, I think we got a much better match.
Biased, Dara. You're raving bigot. You're an absolute zealot. Cultish acolyte.
He had such a great match about 2 months earlier, the Caribbean strap match. When he was just Steve Austin, he dropped the ringmaster and was just Steve Austin, and Ted DiBiase was still knocking around. But man, they had a Caribbean strap match that was just unbelievably good. I think it was at Beware of Dog, but I could not tell you for 100% sure. But it was absolutely fantastic.
Well, the only reason why I say it is because it changed the dynamic of the show, right? I mean, it added that layer of unpredictability because again, it was for the most part unplanned, and it just kind of got the crowd into it immediately for the most part.
Yeah,
and it was a great opener. It's probably one of the best openers I've seen in some time, and it's shocking. Well, it's shocking and it's not, you know.
Yeah.
From there, we had our first title match, which was Owen Hart and the British Bulldog, who defeated the Smoking Guns, Billy and Bart. Bart, who would later go on to win the Brawl for All, and then be knocked out by Butterbean in a couple of seconds. So.
We did a whole Brawl for All episode, and God, poor Bart. Imagine getting into wrestling and being punished for being a good fighter. Just bizarre.
So yeah.
I hate Brawl for All though because it robbed us of Dr. Death Steve Williams, who was another one of my favorite wrestlers. Member of my favorite tag team, but that killed Dr. Death in WWF. So that is my that's why I am anti Brawl for All, just for that reason.
Me and Dara have been through all the lives that were ruined by Brawl for All.
There's a list of them. It has a body count.
Oh, and it does.
And it was all brought in just to teach JBL a lesson.
This is it.
So spiteful, like.
in terms of victims on American soil, it goes 9/11, Oklahoma bombing, Brawl for All.
That's it, because people in the know that Hawk would never have got pushed off that Titantron by Droz if it wasn't for Brawl for All. Long-term storytelling.
The payoff we never got.
That's it, absolutely.
But lads, what did you think about this as a so what the upside of this was, the tag team division was still intact quite well. It wasn't the Attitude Era. Matches weren't 3 minutes. They were like proper matches. You had Owen Hart and the British Bulldog in there as your champions defending. And then obviously the Smoking Guns with Billy and Bart Gunn, who are great wrestlers in and of themselves. This was actually a really, really solid tag match. And I was thrilled by it. 9 minutes. I had a nice clean finish as well. So what did you think, Colin?
Do you know what? It's an interesting one because another one of my favorite pay-per-views is the pay-per-view that came immediately before this, which was Mind Games. And that is when Owen Hart and the British Bulldog beat the Smoking Guns for the tag team titles. And I absolutely love that match. And compared to that match, they're just a little... I personally think that it's just it's a notch below, if you know what I mean. I thought the finish was great in this. I thought the kind of, Bulldog kind of pulling. What was their fit? I can't remember what the Smoking Guns finisher was called. The Stun Gun. The Sidewinder. Yeah. There you go.
JR keeps saying it. It's like, he's going for it. He's going for the Sidewinder. Oh, just take it. Oh, he was going to go for the Sidewinder.
Pulling him out of the Sidewinder and dropping a Bulldog coming in. Like, it was a good finish. And it was a good match, but because if you do go back to this time of 1996, really, really excellent tag match is the month before at Mind Games, which is probably a worse pay-per-view, but better version of this match.
Lads, I insist you do a song called Stun Gun. The Stun Gun. The Stun Gun.
And Sidewinder.
Oh man, I agree. I agree. There's some fair points there, but I need to actually go back and watch that match. And that pay per view, actually, Mind Games has been a while since I've seen it. Tristan, what did you think? And then Martin.
I thought Owen Hart's great. Even just little things I can't remember the first move he does. I think it's just a simple little takedown or something. But he does one move and straight away goes woo. It's like I've done it. It's like he didn't even nearly win. He just did a move, and it's just great. And it's great. It is great having actual tag teams as well. Guns are meant to be brothers, so they dress the same. And Owen Hart and the Bulldog, they're a cohesive team. Even though they don't have a team name yet, they're still like an actual team, and there is a reason for them to be a team and stuff like that.
Yeah, they're not just random jobbers that were hanging out in catering. They're like, quick lads, go. You got 5 minutes, which is when we were watching Raw and we did a whole arc where we watched 3 months of Raw. It would be that. It'd be random tag teams, and it's sad to see that degenerate, but you can kind of see why they went that way, particularly with the next two matches that I guess we'll go into. Martin, before we do, any thoughts on the tag match?
Yeah, I mean, again, I have to agree with Tristan on the love for Owen. All the little things he does are for slammy winner on his text. That's just brilliant. And I even love, I don't know what it is, because it's not super clean or super slick, but I love that spinning heel kick he does. It just looks like it has a lot of heft behind it. It looks like a real the only thing I was wondering is during this match, I noticed that several times Owen goes to tag Bulldog, and Bulldog gets in the ring but doesn't do the tag, and then is in the ring wrestling and then doesn't realize he's the guy in the ring. And I remember reading Brett's book about how he basically had to talk Bulldog through the SummerSlam match. And I'm wondering, is 1996 Bulldog still crack smoking Bulldog? Because he doesn't seem to really follow what's going on
Well, he was. That's actually very true because I don't know if you listen to Jim Cornette at all, but Jim Cornette said they were floating down Lake Havassoma. He was in that group, and with X-Pac had gone to WCW at this time, and you had obviously Hall and Nash had gone to WCW at that time. So essentially, Triple H was clean. So your Havassoma group at this time was Davey and Sean. So Davey was 100% in his acting the maggot at that stage. So you're dead right.
You can tell because there's multiple points during this match where Owen is 6 inches away from him with his hand right in front of him, and Davey gets in the ring and walks past him.
That's because Davey is off in space.
But here, just when you bring up X-Pac, this is something that's been running on the podcast for a wee while.
Make
Do
some
either
noise.
of you know? Dara!
Sorry. Go on.
I was going to ask, do either of you know what is shouted at the start of X-Pac's entrance music?
It's make some noise.
But what did you think it was?
Sound like that though. I used to think at the very start, I thought he just said X-Pac, but shouted it really weird, But
Tristan, did you know what it was?
I thought it was make some noise. I always thought it was that.
Neither of you lads owe us an X-Pac euro then.
That's true. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. I thought you were going to go to something else, and now I just instinctively every time he shows up, I just say make some noise. It's in my head now. But yeah, I both myself and Martin thought it was X-Pac said really weirdly.
Yeah,
for years, and then now all of his promos make a lot more sense. That he says make some noise all the time. It's like, oh my god, this makes so much more sense now.
I always thought it was the way, because there's kind of like a slur. I always thought he was saying sex Pac, as if that was a cool pun on his own name or something.
But you know what's interesting? And I would love to know, and I don't know the answer to this. Do you know Mike Tyson used that music before X-Pac?
What?
There you go. If you go back on a couple of Raws before WrestleMania 14, Mike Tyson uses that X-Pac's theme music. And I couldn't tell you if there is make noise or Sex Pac or what I'm going to say now, Sex Pac Euros. But he uses that music, which is weird.
Noise for Tyson, it might be everything, because if I'm remembering right from SmackDown 2, it goes, make some noise. And then there's a voice dubbed in on top that just goes, X-Pac.
Yeah.
and then it's just the X song. So maybe it is exactly like that. And then that's just the same as when they dubbed the X Factor into the X Factor music without permission.
That sounds like when WCW went to Germany and they brought the wrong tape for the NWO music. So it had the but it didn't have the NWO. So they played the music and they just got some poor roadie on a mic to go NWO NW for life.
And that was still better than the B Squad music that the NWO got. God. Oh my god. Yeah, and Martin, thanks for bringing it up again. Sorry, I didn't realize you were going to go into that. I thought it was something else. But
apologies, lads. The X-Pac Euro tax is waived.
But it's not waived for people listening, folks. If you didn't know that, if you thought it was X-Pac or whatever, you can go over to our Patreon and give us an X-Pac Euro. You must exactly.
Always an X-Pac Euro.
The lights have to be kept on here somehow. You know, we have to fund that fight between Martin and CM Punk. It's not going to fund itself. No. So go over to the Patreon.
Not Cross McGlenn, the council's not paying for it.
But lads,
still ain't going to get his tetanus shots on collision money.
But lads, we do have to go to a break here on Phoenix 92.5 FM. But before we do, tell us how we can check out Cell Games if you have any music coming up soon, and where everybody can find you guys.
We are on all the main things. We're on Instagram at cellgames.mp3. Twitter is cellgames_mp3 because you can't have a full stop in your handle. It's just Cell Games on Facebook. Cell Games on Spotify. That's where everything is. We do have a TikTok because you have to have a TikTok. There is nothing on it, so if you don't put up for it. The last video that went on it was an announcement about the new Instagram page, but then we got copyright struck for using our own music in the background, so that's gone.
Fantastic.
But does it have a YouTube? I was listening to your stuff on YouTube.
We have YouTube as well. This will be the podcast version of this is coming out Thursday.
Yep.
So Thursday evening, you're getting an exclusive here, but it won't be an exclusive because this is going on the radio Tuesday. On Thursday evening, there will be a guitar playthrough of Here's to Your Bones going up.
Oh, fantastic.
Because the content train does not stop for anyone.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Well, guys, go over and check them out. Give them a like, give them a follow. Are you doing merch?
Not right now. We just sold the last of our t-shirts.
Okay. But there will be merch.
I'll definitely keep an eye out on things. Like we're looking at doing like a whole new design for t-shirts. We're probably going to do stickers because everyone's got surfaces. So
That's true.
Everyone's got stickers. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah, baby. Those fair game stickers flying out like stardust, baby.
Well, go over and check them out. Keep an eye on the socials and buy the merch because here in exclusive, that's how bands make money. Buy their stuff because the record industry is a nightmare. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for being on the show. We are going to keep this party going over on the podcast. So if you guys are checking it out for the first time, that's weird. Go over and go to nerdtoknowmedia.com, thewrestlingrewind.com. That's where you will find the rest of the show. We will talk to you after this break on the podcast and next week on Phoenix 92.5 FM. Bye, guys.
You brother.
You have nothing else to do on a Saturday? Do you like nerd things? Now check out Nerd to Know Basis here on Phoenix 92.5 FM, 5 PM to 6 PM, and then head over to nerdtoknowmedia.com for all of our shows as part of the Nerd to Know Media Radio Network.
Thank you for listening to a Nerd to Know Media production.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Wrestling Rewind here on nerdtoknowmedia.com. The Wrestling Rewind. If you're listening to us here, coming from Phoenix FM, thank you so much. My name is Darrell O'Connor, still joined by Martin Herty, and we're also joined by the two lads from Cell Games, Colin and Tristan. Lads, thanks so much for being on the show. Welcome to the Wrestling Rewind After Dark. Don't turn the lights down in the arena. Warzone.
Shotgun Wrestling Rewind.
Wrestling Rewind Underground.
That was actually my favorite of the weekly shows, Shotgun.
It was.
Because the Big Boss Man was always on it. And I love the Big Boss Man. You know,
it's also... Is Shotgun the one that they used to record in New York at midnight?
They did initially, and then it became like an off-brand heat.
Well, it's the only time ever where Mick Foley and Bret Hart have wrestled.
Really? Interesting.
Yep. Only time
That's amazing.
Ever. Mankind
That's incredible.
Bret Hart on Shotgun Saturday night.
Oh, wow.
It also has my favorite ever Terry Funk line when he interrupted Stone Cold, or when Steve Austin interrupted him, and he just goes, "Your mother's a whore."
Speaking of crazy interruptions and promos, back on the show has my favorite thing this whole pay-per-view, the superstar line. I wish this was a thing. It's Triple H listening to Stone Cold cutting a promo and he can't hear him, but his face, he wants to interrupt but he can't, and there's some random lad beside him, and it's just like, what is this? I love it. I want that back. And also, we didn't mention the floozy that was with Owen Hart and British Bulldog. I don't know who that is, but I'm a big fan of when wrestlers have floozies with them. You know, not like a valet, like a Jim Cornette or something, just a random floozy that does their bidding.
I didn't even notice I didn't even. Yeah, it's right with Natural Lemur. You are just a floozy.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't notice the random floozy actually in that. I must go back and check.
It's like when Jericho was in. Jericho just debuted and he had his floozy with him, Curtis. And Ralphus, yeah. I mean, all heel wrestlers and teams should have a floozy, not a female manager now, just someone who's just there to do nothing. It's brilliant, but they do little bits. Like the Blue Meanie's the perfect floozy.
Was this Clarence Mason? Was it Clarence Mason?
Clarence Mason, that's it. Yeah,
that's exactly who it was.
Yeah.
There you go.
Also known as Jay Biggs in WCW.
There you go.
There's a couple other things about this show that are fairly unique. Again, like because In Your House wasn't like a full.
Hold on a second. It was $2 for that superstar line. That's just robbery. Imagine that.
A minute.
Yeah.
In 1996.
And yeah, my mom would have beaten me around the house for that, like that, and I would have deserved it too, because I don't know about you guys, but $2 a minute, £2 a minute.
You wouldn't pay €2 a minute to listen to one of them jack-off lines.
Speaking of jack-off lines, I actually have a funny non-wrestling related story that relates to this. Basically, when I was a young fella living back down in Newtown Castle in County Longford, the arse end of nowhere, I got in trouble because my mother got the phone bill, and she was like, "Oh, look at this, €50 for ringing. You're not ringing any of those porn lines." And I was like, "No, ma'am, it was the psychic hotline." And do you want to know?
Oh, that's worse.
But you know what? You want to know what the worst thing about this whole story was? It actually was the psychic hotline.
Oh my god! I'd admit to the porn.
It actually was the psychic hotline.
Oh, incredible!
Which, weirdly enough, had Mean Gene Okerlund on it.
Did it? Is that true?
You can't be serious.
Oh my god, that's so funny.
People call it Triple H in 1996. It was what, $2 a minute.
$2 a minute.
It was a challenging wank, but not an impossible wank.
See, it wasn't even Triple H. It was Austin shouting down the phone with Triple H making mouth noises.
Absolutely. And Austin making D'Lo Brown level head waggles.
Come here, by the way, Colin, did anything the soothsayers say turn out to be true?
I cannot remember.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
For 50 quid, I would have got that tattooed on me. It was like,
this
your
was
poor
way
mother.
back in the way back.
Oh, man.
So there was a few other things in this show that I thought were... I actually don't even know if they were unique or something they were trying, but I really liked them. So whenever they had the wrestlers doing promos backstage, the commentators could hear them through their headsets and were able to back and forth with them directly. It was almost like a news interview. You know, like when you see people being interviewed in news. I thought that was pretty cool. And the other thing that I loved was, because we went straight into the opening match.
Yeah.
The opening video package was brilliant.
Oh, it was very good.
Loved
it. Very good.
Like you can really see, so like WWE would obviously perfect this over time. But you can really see them getting into it here. Like it looks really good.
Do you know what? I particularly loved the 1997 opening packages because they were a little bit raw, and you had the kind of, very famously the WrestleMania 13, shades of grey kind of. It's not good guys or bad guys. It's shades of grey, and obviously because Vince had said that personally, like maybe a year afterwards.
Yeah,
it's really him projecting through these as well, which is kind of interesting. But I absolutely love that Buried Alive opening was something else.
And another cool thing they did during the show, obviously the turning off JR's mic throughout the first half of the show would eventually lead to an in-ring
I couldn't
promo.
tell if that was shoot or not until it became a promo. Yeah, it was obvious. But when it first started happening, I honestly couldn't tell if that was shoot or not. Like, JR he really sells being a whiny bitch.
You know what though?
It was so well done.
But you know what's funny though? Sorry for interrupting you, Colin. Right?
Oh, sorry.
We've been jumping around, like the timeline now, like a drunk Doctor Who, and every time we show up with JR, it's him bitching about stuff. On one random episode of Raw, he makes his own commentary booth.
Oh
yeah. And then he's in a frat house, and it's like, whoa, for like 4 years, like, and that gets brushed over because obviously he's JR. But week to week, he complains a lot. Like, really
but here he hasn't even changed. So last week we did a Double or Nothing, and at one stage during Double or Nothing, it's not. Is it Cool Hand Ange gets thrown into the commentary table and knocks over JR's coffee and all? You can actually hear JR in commentary going, "You stupid bastard!" It's like, JR, you're sitting at the commentary table at a wrestling pay-per-view. What in the name of God did you think was going to happen?
Well, that was coffee getting ruined. Come on.
That's so funny. Are you aware of Brian Last?
No.
Yeah, Brian Last is the co-host of the Jim Cornette podcast and host of the 605 Super podcast. He had the best tweet, which is Jim Cornette has checked the fuck out. Or not Jim Cornette, Jim Ross has checked the fuck out. And it's 100% true. Jim Cornette has really just checked out. But it's hilarious to listen to. It's actually very, very funny to listen to.
And well, not the worst thing, but the thing about it is that he completely has. But his voice is so synonymous with wrestling. I wouldn't keep him week to week, but I keep him for like big shows or big moments, or just because his voice alone is for a whole generation of people. His voice is wrestling.
Absolutely. Yeah. But I think, as you know, you've got two very, very wide divides on that show. You have JR, who's just like, antagonistic and, a grouch, and you have Tony Schiavone, who's so happy to be there.
Yeah.
And, it's like,
but I mean,
I don't know which one I prefer.
It's funny because Schiavone I always thought he was a better commentator, like straight man, like as a commentator than Jim Ross, who was, look, he's famous for being extremely biased. Like, there's a great promo I shared on my Facebook a while ago where it's him just railing Triple H, going, "You bastard, you black." Oh my God! How dare you do this? And it was just, I mean,
you prick, you fucking wanker.
just railing into him for whatever he does, and then like cheering Austin and stuff. And nobody can sell a story like that. But like Schiavone's always been like a straight man, where he's like he's Vince McMahon who knows what he's talking about. Absolutely. That's Schiavone.
But you know what? Here's an interesting one on that. I don't know if you've ever picked up on it on your wrestling travels, but one of the most unusual things that Jim Ross has ever said is he says, "Those son of a bitches," he says. "Those son of a bitches." Have you ever noticed that? He goes, "Those son of a bitches." It's like, are you trying? Is sons of bitches? What you're trying
sons
to
of bitches? I think that's
those son of a bitches.
No. That's you can do all sorts of things with modern medicine.
keep your ear out for that. Son of a bitch. Those son of a bitches is there.
You take several fertilized eggs and you plant them in one woman.
Right. I'm going to be the Vince McMahon here and pull it back.
It's a war zone, Dara.
Back to live action.
One thing modern medicine can't explain though is whatever the hell Farouk was wearing on his head.
Oh my God! Here in my notes.
Really?
I just literally have Farouk helmet. Lol.
He looks like a mixture of Sub-Zero and Kang the Conqueror.
What if you got Tristan?
I just wrote Farouk stupid fucking helmet.
Because he was supposed to be a Centurion.
Is that what it's supposed to be?
That's what it was supposed to be, because when he debuted, Sonny was like, feeling the muscle, was like, a modern Centurion. I was like, why is his name Farouk then?
As soon as he came on, I went deaf. couldn't hear a single thing. In my head, it was just going, the helmet, the helmet, the
But
helmet.
it's the last appearance of the helmet. That's the last appearance of the helmet.
But here's the question. Is it the first appearance of the helmet? Because, as Tristan pointed out, we know they like to reuse music. Is that the helmet they tried to get Ric Flair to wear when they wanted him to be the Centurion?
No, because that was WCW. But it could well be. It was did
WWF not want him to be the Centurion when he came in?
It was whatchamacallum, Jim Herd. Jim Herd wanted him to be. They wanted him to be Spartacus.
Spartacus,
yes,
that's what it was.
That was the Jim Herd one. I was only recently bought the Flair book To Be the Man.
Yeah.
And there is an awful lot of time dedicated to Jim Herd wanting him to be. They were like, he wanted me to cut my hair, wear a helmet, and the big thing is, and get an earring.
Oh.
And I was like, but
like
just
Spartacus of old.
Yeah, it's just like Spartacus. So we have Farouk is a centurion called Farouk, and now we have a centurion with an earring. I don't think people know what centurions are.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I mean, he literally looks like a cross between Sub-Zero and Kang the Conqueror.
Yes.
It's so bizarre. I was like, what the hell is going on here? And just like Martin said, I have not a clue what he said, because all I could focus on was that helmet. That was it. There was I don't know what it was about or what was going on, but he was beaten to death nearly by a 2x4, it looks like, and that's probably the end of him. Oh. So Farouk would come back the nation after that at that point, but Jesus. If you guys haven't seen it and you're just listening to the podcast, one, that's also very weird. But go check out, just Google Farouk helmet and it will pop up. So Goldust comes out with Terry Reynolds, who's not Terry Reynolds at the point. She is Marlena. Marlena, exactly.
With her giant, extremely suggestive cigar. Nobody smokes a cigar like that, Marlena.
No. And then it's there's a promo in the back with Mark Mero and Sable.
Do you know the reason for Marlena?
No.
Yes, because they wanted to dumb down the character.
Well, dumbed down. Goldust
was this for the not gays, was it?
Yeah, Goldust was obviously supposed to push a really homophobic button.
Yes.
But kind of pushed it too hard, and then they had to rub it. Go, no. He just likes grabbing balls. He's also got a woman.
It's the old not
chill
gays
out,
thing,
guys.
You know? It's like no, he's not gay. It's fine.
He's androgynous.
So here, apparently Vince wanted to get Goldust to get fake boobs.
No. Goldust offered to.
Wow, it's the other way around. Okay.
Yeah. The other thing is that when Dustin Rhodes was starting in the WWF, he got a call from Vince and he was like, "Yeah, we want you to come in, pal, and we're going to really push some buttons here. You're going to do an androgynous character." And Dustin Rhodes was like, "Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'll do that. Brilliant." And then hung up the phone. And then he says, the first thing I did was go and find a dictionary and look up what androgynous means.
It got him over, though. I mean, let's put it this way. This character now, this kind of Goldust would be the Goldust that would kind of carry on for the next couple of years. So, I mean, it did kind of settle in. You know, you haven't seen Black Rain yet, Martin. You will. You will.
See, I was initially looking forward to it because I have this image in my mind of TNA where we all take the piss out of it, but once the bell rings, it's got really good talent and the matches are all great. And Hard Justice really punched a hole in that theory.
See, this is the thing. This is why, you know, with AEW, I find it very hard because I get TNA flashbacks, like Vietnam flashbacks. And I think Martin understands now why that happens. But so Mark Mero comes out and he has Sable's music, which is weird because it's Sable's music, not Mark Mero's music. But obviously she hadn't got over yet. She hadn't done her Playboy thing yet. So Mark Mero is a legit star here with like pyro and everything. That's bizarre to me, Colin.
It's interesting with Mark Mero because I have a big problem with people about Mark Mero, and I'll tell you why. Because I watched WCW pay-per-view where Mark Merrow and Brian Pillman had one of the best matches that I have ever seen, and I will share it with you guys.
Right.
It's the opener, and it's absolutely incredible. And people will obviously, in hindsight, say, "Oh well, that's all Brian Pillman." But the Mark Merrow gave, well, obviously as Johnny B. Bad in WCW, gave off such a star present in that, and the match was so good that I was a huge fan of Wildman Mark Merrow in WWF. But the character just is not, it's not what it's supposed to be. It's like Vince is steadfast, I don't want to use what somebody else has made. So if Mark Merrow came to WWE as Johnny B. Bad, as Dusty Rhodes, Johnny B. Bad, baby, yeah, absolutely, Little Richard, woo, kind of with the kisses and the smiles, and then he was an absolute ass kicker in the ring. Like that, I think that would have got over so much more than actual Mark Merrow. But when he came out with Sable with her, and Sable, like, Say What You Want was just an absolute fucking magnet for, it's the statuesque pose, it's the look, it's the hair, it's the whole lot. But it's just an unusual thing, because I think Mark Merrow, with a different gimmick, with the skills that he had, was absolutely fantastic for 1996 WWE, and would have went on with that character to be really, really over if it wasn't for the fact that he wasn't overshadowed by Sable and playing a watered down version of a character that he had played to perfection like 2 years earlier.
I actually have down in my notes here, Mark Merrow was born in the wrong era, because this is so like I actually completely agree with everything you've said, and I think actually me and you might have watched that match, Dara.
Yeah,
but
it sounds familiar. Actually, it does.
Yeah, but what I got from this match, I was watching this going, this is actually a really good match. Mark Merrow, or at least this version of him, is a work rate wrestler. And if he was around today, like now, when like work rate is really, or at least by a certain section of fans, work rate is really what they go for, he'd be over as hell.
Yeah, I know. I was actually going to say that the moonsault that Mark Merrow does is incredible.
He pulls out a shooting star press.
That's it.
That's wild thing.
It's insane, because you're like, okay, and this goes back to what I was saying earlier on. This pay-per-view feels like it's at a crossroads where either it's going to go into what WWE would become today or the Attitude Era, and it can't really decide what it is. So you have really good matches, but then also, right, we're going into it, and then it seems like, for the most part, in a year or two, that's when they would just go, right, no, we're just going into the Attitude Era properly.
It just things were clicking all over the place, but also things were not clicking all over the place, if you know what I mean. Like, this iteration of Mark Merrow was just like a foil for Sable to jump off to be what she is, because Mark Merrow came into the WWF with that music and actually stole Sable from Triple H, because Sable was one of Triple H's floozies that Mark Merrow kind of took an interest in, and that you had the whole I'm going to rescue you from Dickhead McGee over here. But it was kind of downhill. And if you've ever listened to Pritchard's podcast, it's interesting. His Sable episode, it was like Mark Merrow came into the room, and they were like, oh yeah, well, and the minute his wife came into the room, they were like, well, we'll take the two of you. Like, so they completely knew what they were going to do. It was Vince was sold on the package, but Vince was sold on the package. Vince was sold on Sable, and then gradually phased out Mark.
It's like what happened with S.A. Rios.
Yes,
where,
exactly.
The exact same thing, where it's like S.A. Rios came in with Lita, and it's like, we'll take Lita by S.A.,
But I think Mark Merrow had more of a... Mark Merrow had always had something, and I loved his boxer gimmick as well. It was an entertaining part of Raw in those days. Like WrestleMania 14 with him and Sable against Goldust and Luna. It wasn't top of the card stuff, but it was very, very good. Attitude era stuff. It was stuff you remember.
And is it just me, or does he look like a swole prince?
He does look like a swole prince.
Does he look like a jacked up prince? Because I'd fight Prince, but I wouldn't fight Mark Merrow.
Well, isn't he a 2 times Gold Gloves winner? Isn't that his gimmick? Or is that true?
And I got injured at one jiu-jitsu lesson, so I'm...
Well, I'll have you know that he's a 1-time Intercontinental Champion and a 3-time World Television Champion. So, fair play. So yeah, Goldust would get the... Sorry, no, Goldust wouldn't get the win here. Mark Merrow would get the win here, and it would be Goldust's first of 2 losses on the night, one of which we'd only see because the next was a dark match. But before we move on, Tristan, what did you think of this match? Do you have anything to add?
I've got some things that aren't really related to the match, but I've made notes and I'm seeing them again.
What this podcast is all about.
That's true.
Someone had, I don't know which of them had, because they both had like gold stuff in their entrance, but someone had glitter in their entrance. And it's there for the entire rest of the night, and it's all over
everybody.
It's everywhere. I mean, glitter is the tool of the devil. So
every match, everyone's covered in glitter. Like even the main event, everyone's covered in glitter. I've got a note here. I don't know what I mean by it. I said Goldust has Hank Hill's arse.
No, he's Tristan. Tristan, Goldust arse is eating his one piece.
And there was one really good dive in the match as well, where like because they didn't have, like everything now, like there's all these huge dives and everyone's got so much space. There's one where like Goldust is right next to the ring, and Mark Merrow does like a flip little dive onto him, and he catches him perfectly. And it was like that's a proper dive. It's not like now he'll jump at you and just kind of push you, and then you take a bump off it. It's like no, like he lands on him and he catches him perfectly. It's like you don't see that. And then there is some dodgy Lawler stuff in this one as well. Not as bad as you would get with Goldust, but there is somewhere towards the end of the match. He says something to Vince about like, oh, Goldust wouldn't make it with the don't ask, don't tell policy.
Oh Jesus!
Oh my God!
And Vince very quickly is like, oh yeah, what you mean the U.S. Army? Like Jerry just has to go like, no, here in the WWF. It was like. Like what the fuck?
Vince is going. But they do. Vince is going. No, he couldn't be gay. He's got a hot woman sucking on a cigar. Come on.
But they do feed into that because obviously Goldust goes face very very soon after this, as in between Royal Rumble and WrestleMania, he goes full face, and part of that is being on the King's court and the King asking him very very pointed questions, which kind of got the reaction. So
it's just maybe Springer approach.
Exactly.
But
so
this like you can't deny how effective the Goldust character was, because one of the biggest noises on the whole night comes from Goldust has Merrow in like looks like almost like a reverse suplex or like a stinger splash position, and when he reaches down, when you do the suplex, you reach down to go for the tights, but instead of reaching down to go for the tights, Goldust like slides his hand down his stomach towards it, and the crowd is just going nuts. Like, I don't know if it's like a good or a bad or whatever it is, but it's a bloody reaction. Like they're going wild for it.
But I remember that, like 100% exactly the same as what you're saying. When Goldust was feuding with Ahmed Johnson, and it was at the end of Raw, and Ahmed Johnson got knocked out, and Goldust went to give him the kiss of life, and I swear to God, it was a backstage segment, and you could just hear the crowd going, "Oh!"
Do you know the story behind that?
Go on, tell me.
Ahmed Johnson didn't know that was going to happen. So the next thing, he opens his eyes, and Goldust is there, like sticking his tongue down his throat, and he legitimately goes for him, like he runs after him.
But it's funny because that's one of several things that at this age, and you just said about the dives, and the dives obviously don't look like, and several times it'll come up in the main event, but dives looking like shit that look like they hurt the other person is a big thing. And it actually kind of reminded me of Darby Allin, because one of the things I like about Darby Allin is that he lays his shit in. Like, and Mankind takes one bump later on, and it really reminds me of that. But there's a lot of those kind of dives where people just, like, with reckless abandon, just...
But it's like we were talking about, like, Owen Hart's heel kick. Like, it's not the prettiest, smoothest, but it looks like it lands, and that's why me and Dave, the other guy we do the show with, me and him have a constant argument over who has the better buckshot lariat, and he thinks it's that YouTube wanker because he does like a pretty flip, and I think it's Hangman because Hangman looks like he takes your goddamn head off.
Yeah, there's no flippy dippy bullshit.
I will tell you exactly why I prefer Hangman Page's buckshot lariat. There's a couple of things that Hangman Page does that completely takes me out of him. But one thing that he does is he always sells his own arm after it. If you notice, even when he goes down for the pin, he grabs his arm and he drops. And I absolutely love that.
Yeah, no, it's like when RVD would do the 5-star.
Yeah,
hold his wrist. It just adds to it. So
I just love talking to other wrestling nerds who pick up on like this.
But I tell you what I don't like. I don't like that he does that. He always, every single match, does that backwards moonsault and never ever looks at where the person is. That brings me out of it. He never like. He just knows that the person is going. He never like just has a.
It's a leap of faith.
So, bringing it back to 1996, lads, just real quick. We were presented by the most 1996 screenshot ever. America Online, fake Diesel, fake Razor, and two of these bricks of computers in what I can only describe as a fever dream, where if you're Kevin Nash and Scott Hall going, what the hell is going on? I don't know. So that was bizarre. That was the thing that happened, and I can't believe they tried it. Jim Ross is there for some reason because he's obviously telling the nerds how to do things. And then we go into a crowd shot of the arena, which, you know, had about 10,000 people, so it looks quite good. Get a nice shot of the grave, which, you know, I was listening to some podcasts and they're saying, yeah, it was a real grave that they planned the entire set around. So everything else was fake except for the dirt. And then it sets up an interesting match with a good video package.
Hold on, because
it's basically the co-main event, like.
Well, we're gonna talk about this match a lot, I suspect. I know Tristan and Kieran have opinions on this. So before we get into it, just before this match starts, I'm hoping someone can help me out here. There's a brief promo with Cornette, and he says that who is it he's with?
He's with Vader.
Vader, yeah.
He
says Vader's gonna go through you like X-Lax through
a widow woman.
What is a widow woman?
A widow woman. X-Lax.
A widow woman.
What's a widow?
You can't be a widow man.
Well, what's a widow woman?
It was either that. I always thought it was either a widow woman or a whitter woman, but I don't know what a whitter woman is. 100%.
I rewinded this about 20 fucking times to try it here. But I thought he was saying either widow or winnow woman. But then I was like, what's a, like, do widows shit a lot? Like, oh God, my husband's dead. Better go to the bathroom. Like, what is? I was completely lost, but I was just hoping, maybe someone else had picked it up. Tristan, you look like you were looking through notes there. Do you have a?
All my notes are not about that. They're about the match.
All my notes are not about that.
So as I said, this was the co-main event. Psycho Sid, Vader, and it would be to determine the number one contender for the WWE Championship at Survivor Series. So that is the stakes that we're going at. Shawn Michaels is the champion at the time, and he's not defending the belt on the show at least, but he would be at Survivor Series.
I have to bring us back 2 seconds. Google says,
Oh, I love this.
There is this thing called Salt Through a Widow Woman, and it says Marissa in Tallahassee, Florida, is puzzled when a friend observes that coffee goes through her like salts through a widow woman, meaning that the beverage makes its way swiftly through her digestive system. The expression, which has been around since the 1860s, refers to the use of Epsom salts as a laxative. So Epsom salts came up with the expression, goes through her like Epsom salts through a widow woman. And but he's just changing the Epsom salts to X-Lax. So that,
but is it
widow
woman?
A widow woman.
A widow woman.
A bereaved woman. But now it doesn't. It still doesn't make any sense. It only raises more questions.
At least there is a pop culture reference, even though it's from the 1950s.
But it just raises. Oh, Jesus.
We had something like this a couple of weeks ago, Martin, as well, where we discovered the root of something as well from the 1800s. What is it about wrestling and random phrases from the 1800s? I can't remember what it was now, but
yeah, but yeah. So I was confused, but at least when I didn't know what it was, I was like, well, I must just be mishearing it. But now that it is widow woman, I'm even more.
Lads, you know what we need to do? We need to bring this back. We need to bring this back. That's gonna go through you like Epsom salts and a widow woman.
I'm telling you, Dara, we've got the X-Pac Euro, we've got the Virgil tenor. We're gonna have to come up with something really good for.
Hold on, why is it a Virgil tenor?
20.
Why is it a Virgil tenor? I'm heavily invested in Virgil, so I want to know this.
So apparently, Virgil, like, if you meet him in like Spar,
yes,
or
asking for a tenor,
whatever the version of Spar is, like, if you want to like an autograph or shake his hand or take a selfie or anything, he'll charge you a tenner.
So everything.
That's
is
€10 for the meat sauce. That's a tenner for the meat sauce. Like Jones, who?
What are our tiers, Dara? We've got the X-Pac Euro, Virgil tenor, but there's something in between, is there?
No, that's what we got so far. That's what we got.
That's it. Yeah, we need to come up with some sort of fiver for the middle class.
We could put the widow woman.
The widow woman fiver.
God, Finley fiver.
It'll go through you like a fiver through a widow woman.
So at the start of this match, it's hilarious because there is glitter everywhere when Sid is walking out, and oh man, he's just drenched, and it's so funny. He's like, I've never seen a man just be so inappropriately wet as Sid Vicious walking into the ring, and it's just dirt and glitter everywhere. It's a complete shambles.
And the worst thing is he's obviously extremely fit, so it's not sweat.
No, it's obviously he went in and like dunked his head in a pool of water beforehand. But it I don't know. Sid Vicious is my favorite Sid Vicious moment is when he breaks his leg in WCW. So I mean,
I think my favorite Sid Vicious moment is on this show, but it comes later, so we'll talk about it then.
Fair, lads. What about you? Where do you stand on Sid Vicious?
Sid Vicious moment for me is my brain. What was it? My body is twice the size of yours, and your brain is half the size. What was that fucking line? What was that line?
My brain is half the size of yours.
That's another one.
It's like you're half the man, and I have half the brain.
And I have half the brain. You're half the man that I am. And I have half the brain that you do. Or else, I'll bring you back. Favorite Sid Vicious moment is when he absolutely destroys Brutus the Barber Beefcake on the set of The Barbershop, and he's staring into the camera going, Hulk Hogan, at WrestleMania 8, you will meet the master and the ruler of the world, and his face is just covered in shaving cream. Check that out. That's off of Saturday night's main event. It's so funny. His face is literally covered in shaving cream.
So, for someone who's so wet when he walks out, right, when he gets into the ring, his hair just sets, and it's like, do you ever eat Coca noodles?
Yes, that's exactly what it's like.
That's what it looks like. Not even the wet ones, just dry Coca noodles. That's what his hair's like, and you're like, I'm so confused by Lex Luger. It's Sid Vicious. Sorry, it's so, not Lex Luger. That's a different conversation.
Lex Luger too, though.
Lex Luger too. Yeah, they're kind of pretty much the same. And then so the two lads come out. Vader comes out obviously with Jim Cornette.
Here, before you get into the match, Dara, there's two things to say about this before it starts. So before this match even began, there is a whole promo package all
Video
about
package.
the power, but video package all about the power bombs. It's entirely, and this will play in later. I'm sure Tristan and Colin have stuff to say about it, but it is entirely 100% focused on the power bomb and who has the best power bomb and who's going to do the power bomb and who's going to win the match with the power bomb. And the other thing, and like we can all slag him, and believe me, I'm going to slag him in a couple of minutes. But one thing you have to admit, Sid is over as fuck.
Yeah, he is. Yeah,
Jesus, he's this amazing shot where he stands up in the ring and the camera pans back the whole crowd, and the crowd is going haywire for him. He's very much it's like Colin was saying about how this pay-per-view kind of bridges the gap a little bit between New Gen and Attitude Era.
Yeah.
Like he's still very much of the old WWF idea of the big man, like the airport test. And like that still obviously plays with the crowd because
Absolutely.
nobody's going mad for his Mark Merrow level work rate, but like people are losing their minds here for Sid.
Absolutely.
Do you know what the funny thing is though? Like, and I noticed this with Austin as well, because like I was like in my teens watching, this as it was rolling out, and I remember Sid Vicious or Sid Justice or whatever, no, just Sid Psycho Sid was by far my favorite wrestler at the time, just because of he was everywhere. And you remember those promos with the curtain and the WWF logo at the back? He was on Superstars, Challenge, blah, 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 cutting these fucking crazy promos. But as a counterpoint to that, with Austin, we didn't know what to make of him at the time because it was just like he was, at this stage, he was just running his mouth night, noon, and morning about Bret Hart. So without being in the litmus test of, oh, well, the crowds are going mad for him, like, we were like, that fucking Stone Cold Steve Austin's the worst of the worst. Whereas we were like, throwing babies in the air for Sid. And I remember watching Superstars when Shawn Michaels announced that Sid was going to replace the Ultimate Warrior at International Incident, because the Ultimate Warrior got fired. And Jim Cornette just going absolutely bonkers. And me and the brother were in the room going, yeah! Which is absolutely hilarious. But Austin was there and he was cutting his promos and it was everything. I was like, oh yeah, blah, blah, blah. But it was the power of, the machine of watching wrestling without the internet.
Yeah.
To kind of tell you what you were supposed to like.
Yeah, exactly. It worked. It worked because you weren't like.
Wasn't it better? Like Dara will tell you at the end of our show, Dara does all the Twitter links and everything. I don't even have one because when I got back, like most of the wrestling fans, I had a big old period where I just fuck this shit. And then I got back into it around the time Becky Lynch got big, got out Irish girl doing well, and then after that sort of AEW came around and I got really into AEW, and my God, like I felt this enthusiasm for it that I hadn't felt in years and really energized me. And then I went on Twitter going, oh my God, all these wrestling fans are on Twitter. And within about 6 months, I deleted Twitter because it just sucks the joy out of anything.
It's the absolute worst. Twitter for wrestling is the absolute worst.
Oh yeah, no, Twitter. It's the worst. Don't do it.
But even Tristan will tell you, and this is my biggest detriment of fucking Twitter and with wrestling.
Oh thank God! I thought you were going to say this is my biggest detriment of Tristan.
Oh, this is it.
right here.
Exclusive.
I'm a big AEW fan. I'm going over to watch them in London.
Oh, see you there.
But I'm also a huge Jim Cornette fan. And I watch every episode of Dynamite and every episode of Rampage and listen to every episode of the Cornette podcast. And there is a hilarious thing that Cornette absolutely hates AEW. And he 100% doesn't. He likes an awful lot of stuff on AEW. He just dislikes an awful lot of stuff on AEW.
No,
but he is very, very 50-50 as regards what he likes and what he doesn't like. So it's just an unusual.
You know what it is? Like, I genuinely believe this because I'm the same as yourself. I'm a huge AEW fan, but I also have my "Thank you, fuck you, bye" T-shirt. Like,
absolutely,
big Jim Cornette guy. I think Jim is at a stage in his career where he knows that the podcast is it.
Yeah,
he's had too many flubs and that, like the Ethiopian comment and all that. Like he's not coming back on any shows. He knows what his podcast audience is, and they, for whatever reason, hate AEW, and he leans into that because that's what they want to hear. But I'm kind of like you. I don't think he believes the half of what he actually says.
But you know what the thing is? I think because he really, really does. If you listen to the show, he really wants AEW to succeed. He just is very, very frustrated at some of the things they do. And as an AEW fan, I can agree with him.
And that's where I sit with AEW as well, because I get TNA flashbacks and I'm like, I've seen this before. I've seen this before.
I was like, hey, Cody, the United States and the USA are not at war. So I don't know what your beef with Anthony Ogogo is right now. There, I can say something bad about Cody.
Well, here, I'll tell you what I think. Like, and me and Dara actually had a crack at this last week. Like, the WWE fans are big for Cody at the minute, but that relentless babyface shtick, that is going to, because that's what happened to him in AEW. He was perfectly primed to turn heel, and he refused to turn heel, and people got sick of that shtick. Like, he's riding high in WWE now because he's the guy who jumped from AEW, but they will get sick of that white meat babyface stuff really quickly.
But they always do. They always do. They always do. We've seen it with Cena. We've seen it with Roman Reigns. But I don't know. I just think, I don't know.
Hell, even Bret Hart had to turn heel, and we all agree completely and emphatically and unanimously that he was the greatest wrestler ever. So
absolutely, but
we all agree. Move on.
100%. Every time Cody puts a promo, I'm believing that that's not going to happen because he seems to have learned from the mistakes of AEW, and he's not bringing Brandy in, even though I'd fucking love to see it.
The story needs to continue.
Because the Jake Cargill thing. She came out and cut the Butch Reed promo on Jake Cargill. I was like,
this ain't an open mic night.
But you know what I mean? Like,
I think he is making the same mistakes because
really,
because at Night of Champions, right? He went in there against Brock Lesnar, the guy who ended the Undertaker streak, with a broken arm. He went toe to toe with Brock Lesnar with a broken arm, and then hung on to the Kimura in a broken arm for like a minute and a half, and didn't tap out. Eventually, just passed out. Like, you're going to push that, and eventually people are just going to, like, again, what happened in AEW was, like, obviously nobody liked Brandy or the Nightmare Collective or any of that shite.
Solo, Camarato, a go-go.
But the main thing that happened Cody in AEW was that he, like, so he did this interview where he says, oh yeah, by the time I'm 40, 45, I want to be out of wrestling. And I kind of want to get into politics. So I don't want to be a heel. and he refused to turn heel. And he was like, Darrell tell you this, like I was in complete denial at the time we were doing these shows. I was like, no, Cody's poised for the greatest heel turn of all time. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be brilliant.
But I think it happened. I think actually think that it 100% happened. I honestly do. I think that the heel turn happened with that Arn Anderson outside of his house with the barrel. I think that was the heel turn.
But I think it was meant to be. But he wouldn't commit to it. He wouldn't like. But anyway, the point is, I think that he stuck to this white meat babyface thing, and I honest to God think he's going to do the same in WWE, and the fans are going to get sick of that really quickly.
So
because they always do.
So Shawn Michaels came out.
Sorry, Dara. Okay. I knew this show was going to get railroaded by Cody Rhodes at some stage.
That's okay. I let you guys go.
This is why we need Dara. He's the responsible presenter.
I feel so sorry for LA Knight now.
So Shawn Michaels came out. He was obviously the special guest and the third man in the booth. And he's the champion as well. He didn't bring the belt, which is weird. And then we had the match, obviously. But you set up something there beforehand, and lads, I'm going to let you get into this as well. That this was supposed to be Powerbomb versus Powerbomb in a match that no Powerbombs were used in. So Tristan,
everyone's too big. They can't do the power.
Well, that's it. You know, and
No, but here's the thing. So one of Vader's moves is the Vader bomb, in which he gets up on Brett's rope, spreads his legs as wide as he possibly can, and bounces. Now, nobody is expecting Sid to haul Vader up, especially not in his current state. This isn't New Japan or WCW Vader, and that's a whole other very sad conversation. But nobody's expecting Sid to haul Vader up. But for God's sake, when he's on the middle rope and bouncing, surely you could contrive a spot where Sid comes underneath him, you know, and all he has to do is walk 2 steps forwards and fall. No,
yeah, even the choke slam he does at the end is a bit
terrible.
It's a Hulk Hogan level choke slam.
Yeah. Like he lands on his knees because he's like he doesn't even like really follow through. He just kind of goes like, and that's it.
But here's what I wanted to show you, folks, because on the back, and Martin, you've seen this. Everyone's seen the promo, right? On the back of this video, it says Psycho Sid versus Vader. Powerhouse match.
Bastard. Those absolute carny bastards.
Powerhouse match. It says on the back of the video. So they fucking knew it. They knew it.
That was going out to print with Powerbomb match, and then someone went, no, bring that back. We can't.
Because I knew
power washer, power hose,
going in.
Powerhouse
match.
Quick, print it. Get the Tipex out. Go. Oh my God. Yeah, and the finish would come with a choke slam of all things. A very weak looking choke slam, and then it would set up well, look, it was weird because Shawn Michaels went into the ring before the match and he was all like friends with Sid. So what was going on here? Because at the end of it, he was obviously talking some smack to him, and obviously they're both faces here. So,
but they were friends at the time, because what happened was that, as I said earlier on, basically the In Your House before this was International Incident, where the Ultimate Warrior was supposed to be the partner of Shawn Michaels and Ahmed Johnson against Team Cornette. So essentially, what happened was, Ultimate Warrior got fired, and Vince was on one of his Sid kicks. So Sid was like, "How about Vince, pal? How about Sid, pal?" So brought back Sid, and basically Shawn Michaels had been lobbying to get Sid back because he hated working with Vader, and at that point, the plan was for Shawn Michaels to lose the belt to Vader at Survivor Series, but because he hated working with him so much. What they did was they just switched it up, and Vader became Sid in everything going forward. So they, until that night, were friends, but the seeds were sown by JR throughout the night, because if you notice, when he came up in Sid's interview, I don't know if this is on the network, but I watched it on the VHS. Sid is doing an interview with Doc Hendricks beforehand. JR comes up to him and steals the mic and goes, the last time you were in the ring with Shawn Michaels, you powerbombed him 5 times, blah, 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 blah. So it buried in people's heads that had happened. That after WrestleMania 11, Shawn Michaels had been powerbombed 5 times by his friend Sid and had put that seed of doubt in people's minds. So that was kind of, I think the after was like, well, we're friends now, but you remember the shit that happened.
We have a little series on the show here, or a little running gag. But it's just me has it. Dara doesn't really know about this, but it's called Shawn Michaels is a whingy little bitch. And this is one of the examples. I absolutely love Vader.
Love Vader.
I admit that when he got to WWF, he was not like his best self. But yeah, he was, like you say, he was poised to do something really great. And then because of Michael's whinging, and as me and Dara discussed previously, because of the pictures Michaels has of himself and Vince in bed, Michaels could do whatever he wanted, so he screwed up Vader's career. And that's one reason of 826 why I will never forgive him.
I'm not a big Shawn Michaels fan either, so I agree with you. And also, I'm just going to say this. Vader was not out of position for that elbow drop at SummerSlam.
Yeah, fuck you, Sean!
He was not out of position for that. He could have easily hit that elbow drop.
That's we
always talks about.
We need Wrestling Rewind t-shirts that say Vince screwed Brett and Vader was in position. It's like,
Macho
Man Ace Ventura. The laces were in.
Yeah, it was a little bit tight, Vader, but bam, Macho Man drops that elbow. Yeah.
But I love reading Mick Foley's book when he talks about wrestling Vader. So like aside from wrestling, people talk about Vader in like just the highest esteem. Like Mick Foley talks about him as being the nicest guy. Bret Hart talks about him as being like he has this terrifying image, but he's like really intellectual. And what did he have, like a master's or a PhD or something, and blah blah. And then Shawn Michaels.
He went on to do like real estate after he was finished in wrestling, so he was well qualified.
Absolutely. And then Shawn Michaels is like, he hits me too hard, bitch.
This is it, and it's so funny because Shawn Michaels had been literally feuding with fucking Diesel. And if you ever watch, Good Friends, Better Enemies, goddamn, Kevin Nash lays in those. You see those forearms? And it's one of the reasons I love that match so much. Those forearms just go boom in the corner. So, as regards someone being stiff with him, when he is, with somebody who he likes, he fucking loves that shit. Because he takes him and he goes, but he just didn't like Vader.
Although Mick Foley says at the start of his book, he's like, some guys lay stuff in and it looks like shit, and some guys barely touch it and it looks amazing. It's like Vader left no room for mistake. Vader just looked like it killed you, and it did kill you.
If anyone would know.
Mick Foley. Although one thing I will say in Shawn Michaels' defense, and this is the only thing I'll ever say, is apparently one of his complaints was that sometimes Vader would go home for the weekend, after the show, and then forget to wash his gear, leave his gear in his bag, and then come back and wrestle. Now, I used to, or trained, it's a bit of a stretch to say that I wrestled for them, but I trained and did a couple of shows and refereed in that for a company in Cork called Phoenix. But we were doing promos once, And I went down and did this promo, and they were like, "Oh, it was great, but you need to do it again in wrestling gear." And I was like, "I don't have wrestling gear." So one of the guys there was like, "Oh, here, look, I have a one piece, like a leotard or whatever." I was like, "Throw that on." And I was like, "Grand, thanks." And it was the one he had worn the night before at a show we did. Hadn't been washed. I swear to God, I've never smelled anything like it. Took 3 weeks to scrub the stench off me. So I can understand his concern around the guy the size of Vader.
If the singlet was a tag team, it would be head cheese. But that was the thing with it. As regards with Vader, like that's the. It's what everybody says, but at the same time, like I feel really bad for Vader because it was kind of like after that Vader became like a little kind of lamb, and he was very afraid of, like, you know, when he was wrestling like Bradshaw. Like Bradshaw was like, "Oh no, just do this and do that," and Vader was just like, "Oh no, do whatever you want to be." It like literally emasculated him from what he was, which is terrible because I'm a huge Vader fan from Japan to WWF. I loved his tag team with Mankind. Loved his tag team with Mankind.
Vader in Japan and maybe but only a slightly lesser extent, Vader in WCW was legitimately terrifying. And it wasn't because of his mask or because of the big helmet that did the gas or anything like that. It's because he got in the ring, he looked like he was going to fucking kill people.
It was because of the White Castle of Fear.
I think that's
it was the White Castle of Fear.
And I think that's a good point, since we're talking about killing people. The Buried Alive match is the main event. The first ever.
Dara, I'm really sorry. I know you're trying to keep things on track here, but honest to God, it's very quick. It's just before we get to the Buried Alive match, there was a very quick promo with Sid.
Oh my God!
That's Colin saw it. It's Tristan. Did you pick up on this amazing promo with Sid?
Maybe.
So I'll tell you what. I'll read it. I wrote it down. I loved it so much. Right. So JR says, as we were talking earlier, JR asks Sid, it's like, "You powerbomb Shawn Michaels 5 times. When you go face to face with him in the ring, are you going to be friends, or are you going to do what it takes to win the title?" And Sid says, "The question is simple. Not the answer is simple. The question is simple. I'll do anything I have to go to my destiny and to make my conquer." 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10. Best promo ever.
Highlight of the show.
So Sid did get the win and set up the main event for next pay-per-view. But we have a match that isn't for a world title, isn't for anything really. It's just that they hate each other that much. We have a match that we're assured that someone is going to be buried alive. And that's what we got. We got Mankind against The Undertaker. The Undertaker in a transitional period where he's still wearing the gloves, but he's a lot more aggressive than he would be as the Dead Man, which is really cool to see. And you have Mick Foley. He's not wearing the shirt yet because he's not corporate. He's still using his Mankind, his entrance music that he arrived with, and he's wearing the old gear as well. This match is actually very good. It's very, very good. And there's been a few Buried Alive matches. A lot of them aren't great or they're more gimmicky. This match was a match that was, funny enough, built around a gimmick where the match itself was there as like the starter, but yeah, the whole goal was to get them to that grave, and then have a match around there as well. It was very good. Some phenomenal spots in this. It really was a worthy main event, and I wish more Buried Alive matches were like this. But Tristan, what do you think about this before we move around the room?
I have some notes. One note just for Colin, where I made a note like after Undertaker came in second, I think, didn't he? And he had like his big entrance.
Yeah, his entrance is amazing.
I just put Big Smoke vape ? And then I put it back.
Touchy.
Put it back in touchy. Yeah, there's some stuff in this as well, like where no one cared about their heads at all in 1996.
At all.
Like
At
in
all.
the promo package, like I think Undertaker gets hit in the head with the urn, but like Paul Bearer does it for real. He just hits him for real in the head. And like the first thing that happens to Mick Foley in this match, I don't know if he gets pushed off the apron or if it's on the outside, but he just throws the back of his head into that railing for real.
And you can just hear the tink.
Yeah, like you can see it's his head. Like he could just hit it with his shoulders, or he could put his hand up. But it's like no, he just throws his head into the.
I literally have a note here that just says, "Mick bumping like a maniac."
But even that, there's a spot in the match where they do a series of small packages, and it's like that's incredible. The fact that they're broke, and I guess it's because they're not broken down yet. That's the thing; they're just able to move around like people. You know,
I agree with you. Right, I bought this video when I was like 14 years of age. I got it on mail order, and I hadn't watched it for years. And what I remembered was The Undertaker, small packaging, Mankind off the mound of dirt.
It's insane.
And making it look like a move that killed Mankind. Like it was just,
do you think
just
Mick
a violent
was like,
thing. Like,
but do you think like what happened there was like Mick was like, yeah, suplex me off the thing, and Taker was like, no, what are you talking about, you lunatic? I'm not gonna suplex you off. It's like, no, do it. I'll be grand. And Taker was like, no, Jesus, I'm not doing that.
But it just looked great. Like it looked fantastic.
But it's just like no, it did. It genuinely did. But it's just like you just don't expect the Undertaker to do a small package.
But that's it. But as Dara said, like this was the medium between eye rolling, sitting up, moving in slow motion, and let's say SummerSlam '98 Undertaker.
Yeah.
You know, this was him. Like, I'm just gonna try this a little bit more.
See, for his entrance, stick a hat and a coat on him. Best version of the Undertaker.
I agree.
Absolutely,
I agree.
All it's missing is that extra wee bit of theatrics with the entrance. But Dara, 100% right. This still spooky, but far more aggressive, far more wrestling Undertaker is amazing.
Absolutely.
It's very much like the Undertaker that we'd see in 2005, but his body isn't broke. Well, his body isn't broken down. You know, he's there. Like,
but do you guys prefer that version of the Undertaker? Because the next month at Survivor Series 1996 is when he would debut the black gear, black shoulder pads, teardrop under the eye. You know, the teardrop.
Because he's a Mexican gang member who killed someone.
All sorts of implications there. But you know what I mean? The teardrop under the eye Undertaker that would go from this until he turned into the Ministry Undertaker. And that started the next month at Survivor Series, where Paul Bearer was in the shark cage over the ring.
No, I think this is like, I do like Ministry Undertaker because how silly it is and how he got paid to literally do nothing, to just be spooky for like 2 years.
He's on Raw every week and he does nothing.
He does nothing.
But I tell you something, it's amazing how much shaving the top part of the beard will make you care a little bit less about a person. Like, oh well.
So lads, what did you think about this match overall? And where you like the for me, the finish of it was actually pretty cool. It was a choke slam, and you know, obviously allowed Undertaker to get there. We'll leave the smash to the end in a second, but as a match, was it a complete meal for you? Were you satisfied with it, or were you like, oh, that could have been better?
I think some of it, like, it's very wrestling. Some of it, like the logic doesn't hold up. That like when they would get to the grave, when they want to fight more, it's like, we better go back to the ring, and then I'll put you back in the grave.
yeah, that's fair.
Like, again, because like, well, it's a show, and that's the middle of the arena, so like it has to happen there. And wrestling moves outside the ring don't work. They look stupid. But even if they did some interesting stuff, like I have a note here. I'm not sure what I mean. I wrote man in hole, and then not so fast make hip toss. Like,
But that
thing is
hip
that, like,
toss that hip toss from the top of the mound looked absolutely brutal.
Yeah.
like it looked
That
real.
one hip toss where Mick just went to the bottom looked absolutely, whether it was the camera angle or would just Mick just with no sense of well-being for his body, looked like a fucking car crash.
You know what was a surprisingly nasty spot too, and it's kind of surprising. You know when Mick just fucks the dirt into his face,
Yes.
and you're like,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
man, that's
There's also a bit where they're outside the ring and Mick goes for I love that we're all calling him Mick like we know him. Mick goes for a pile driver and stops, and then you're like, oh, Undertaker's going to do the old backdrop spot, but he doesn't. He stands up and he holds his legs, so Mick's now hanging down the Undertaker's back. The Undertaker's holding his legs, and then the Undertaker kind of steps backwards and then falls into the steps. Oh my God. This is 1996. Calm down.
But see, that's the thing. It's 1996, right? But it has spots like that. It has the use of the chair liberally, which is like, this is a match, and I hate to use the phrase, but it's true, ahead of its time by at
100%.
least a year and a half.
You've Undertaker running through the crowd, leaping over the barrier and clotheslining Mankind.
It's amazing.
But Dara, I'm gonna put this question to you, right?
Go on.
Because I know you and Martin are very much fans of the Attitude Era.
Yeah.
But the reason why I love 96/97 is because with these matches, I feel like it's before they decided that we're going to market this, and that these things were happening on the fly and were completely raw, and people were getting wiped out, and they just looked so much realer and were presented in such a real fashion. As in, like, that where, we've said it before, where Undertaker goes for basically a slide dropkick out to the ring, and Mick Foley just goes bang into that guardrail. Like, it's not, let's go out and like, we're Attitude Era, pal, blah, 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 blah. We're going to take it to the extreme. It's like these guys doing it for themselves.
Yeah.
And raising the bar.
Yeah.
And because of that, even when there's very, very, and it sticks out in my mind with this match, the Undertaker launches himself off the top rope onto Mankind very, very early few minutes of the match, and he lands, and he looks like there's nothing graceful about it, but he looks like he absolutely kills him.
Yeah.
And that's like the realism, compared to the year before.
Yeah, the Attitude Era, from a match standpoint, with exceptions, it's not good. There are no matches. They're not matches, they're angles.
Dara, we watched it. How many episodes of Raw did we watch where we would go, oh, that was 2 episodes of Raw, and there were
2 minutes wrestling.
Eight and a half minutes. 8.5 minutes of wrestling.
And it's because wrestling wasn't the stuff. Like, it was, what do we say? There was no wrestling, but we were sports entertained.
Yeah,
absolutely.
This is wrestling.
I think it's Dara's. Sorry, what Colin's saying is that this is the very, very short but really enjoyable, because, like, for anyone listening, I think we universally agree that we all love this pay-per-view. But this is the very, very short gap between kind of the silliness of the New Gen era and like the ludicrousness of the Attitude Era, where they were definitely going for characters and definitely going for storylines, but matches still mattered.
Yeah, I think that's a very concise point on that, and it's funny though, because you say that, and then the ending of it is all silly until it's amazing, where
it's just the right amount of silly.
That's true, because they stick the landing. They stick the landing when that hand comes up and the crowd explodes. It's something else. It really is. It's incredible. But yeah, Tristan, do you have any comments to make on this?
Are we talking about the match, or are we going into the?
We'll go into the finish. We'll go into the finish.
I think you can see at the end they hadn't actually thought about the logistics of having to bury someone alive. Because like to get Mick out of there pretty quick, but then just have to bury Undertaker. And like, I don't think the plan was to like empty the locker room and get them all to come out. I think it was just meant to be like making the Executioner and Paul Bearer, but then to have like people out, and like even like people who weren't on the show, even like I think was one of them Bradshaw. Did Bradshaw?
Yeah, Bradshaw, Triple H.
So in
Mick
Foley's book, he talks about how they got the Undertaker in the grave. Now, I think logistically, in terms of how they work it, is that there's in the middle of the grave there's some sort of door or something that comes across, because they're throwing dirt into the grave and then the camera goes down and it's all very level and that. But Mick was saying that we were throwing dirt into the grave and we didn't realize how long it takes to fill a grave. So like they kind of just called out all the heels.
Pritchard sent out Bradshaw and the whole lot.
Bradshaw in his gear as well, even though
Bradshaw in his gear. No, he was actually wrestling. He was on the free for all.
Yeah,
he wrestled. Who else? Savio Vega on the free for all.
Sorry, Tristan, go on. I didn't mean to.
They do a good job as well. Kind of, like I hadn't thought about how long it would take, but they do a very good job. I noticed afterwards, it's like you don't realize that they show a lot of people digging for a while, but you never see the hole for like quite a bit. It's like it's a good sleight of hand.
But I kind of like that though. I kind of like that it took time. And you know, I loved Vince and Lawler like back and forth, like just kind of trying to fill time, talking like, you know. And Vince was like, "Well, I didn't think we were going to see something like this, pal." And Jerry Lawler was like, "Well, I thought, you know, you keep on waiting for something to happen, but I don't think anything's going to happen." Like that kind of stuff. Like,
I love that the two of them are there. It's like, we're basically watching a murder. Someone should probably call the police. Obviously not us, but someone should.
But it's a funny thing that Cornette says. It was like in these situations, it's like, do you know what? Babyfaces have no friends at all.
Yeah.
Where was Mark Merrow then?
So what were you saying, Tristan?
No, I was just saying that I think the last thing I said was just how like it was Hollywood magic, the way they did the sleight of hand.
It kind of was, yeah. I really now. So I mean, separately from the match, I'm kind of intrigued by the logistics of the grave, because I noticed when Mick Foley got thrown into it, he lands with his head towards the top end of it.
Yeah.
And then he very deliberately gets up and turns around and puts his head towards the bottom end. Now, I don't know if they had, like, obviously the grave was gimmicked, but I don't know if they had, like, pipes or levers or whatever it was. But it's just strange that he gets slammed into it and then immediately gets up and turns around and goes the other way.
Basically, according to the Something to Wrestle With podcast, there was a shelf on it that you basically, when the Undertaker was in it, he could just push it over like it was a drawer.
Yeah.
And roll into it. And it was essentially a big ass compartment. So when he's sticking because that is his actual hand that comes up, he could just stick his hand up because it was like a little room.
Yeah.
But that's what Pritchard says on the Something to Wrestle With podcast. So,
but one of the interesting things is that so it's Taker who gets buried, but it's Taker who actually wins the match.
Yeah.
He throws Mankind into the grave, and he fills the grave enough that the referee decides, all right, you're mostly covered in dirt. You've been buried alive. And then the Executioner, who is Terry Gordy, comes out and he gets him out of the hole. He has to dig him up.
And that's why we chose Buried Alive 1996
to get him out of the hole, and he does so successfely. I hope nobody gets that.
I hope everyone does. Everyone should know it.
I swear to God, That song has been in my head for 4 days. Fuck the pair of ye. But there's a brilliant period of about 8 minutes where this pay-per-view goes from WWF Buried Alive to WWF the council filling a pothole. It's just like just these lads just like you can tell. Like I have the greatest respect for wrestlers. Wrestlers work incredibly hard. You can tell none of them have held a fucking shovel. Like, none of them know how to. 2 farmers from South Armagh would have filled that hole in 90 seconds. Like,
do you know what the funny thing is, though? I kept fixating on Bradshaw's coat.
Yeah, that got me
Bradshaw
too.
kept that coat for his entire career.
Yeah.
It was just unbelievably a coat that he was wearing at the time.
In terms of like so Tristan, you said it was like perfect Hollywood. What was it, drama or nonsense? What did you say?
I'm just like the camera angle stuff was like Hollywood magic. The fact like the very clever sleight of hand.
Yes, it was for me. It was almost perfect Hollywood magic. So I love the burial. I love I actually even though it was like a on the fly sort of make good, I kind of loved all the heels coming out because the story, you can kind of retcon the story in your head going like, oh yeah, the Undertaker's this unbeatable. Like as soon as anyone saw weakness, all the heels like hyenas just came out and buried him alive. I flipping. Oh wait, we're on the post Phoenix thing. I cunting loved the fist coming up through.
It was amazing.
The only thing was what should have happened was the fist should have come up, and you should have seen it for 2-3 seconds, and then McMahon should have gone, we're out of time, this is about blah blah. I'd gone to black. But what happened was the fist was up there for about 20 or 30 seconds, and after the first few seconds of, oh my god, this is amazing, what's happening, it started to look like kind of like the Muppets. It
was gratuitously there.
It was just moving the hand. It's like so the story is that the Undertaker's still alive. He's punched his fist up through the ground, and oh no, he's not going to crawl his way out. He's just
and also because it was a part that was like just there all the time. It was just like a little bit of AstroTurf that was just there for the whole thing.
I could suspend my disbelief with that though. I because here's the thing. I watched a video a little while ago. I think it was Super Eye Patch Wolf, or it was something else, and they were talking about again. It is related, I swear. And they were talking about tricks that were done by famous escape artists. And one of the ones that kills a lot of people is burying them alive. So I'm kind of like, oh no, how are they going to trick this? Because usually the way that trick is done, they have like a glass coffin or a hard plastic coffin, and the minute the dirt hits them, that's it, they're dead. And some lad poured concrete in, and he was dead instantly. So it's just like, okay, so whatever. I'm okay with suspending my disbelief so they don't kill Mick or the Undertaker, because that would be horrible.
Oh yeah,
like Undertaker and it's in his name.
Yeah, and like I have to say that, like, I mean, nitpicking a wee bit of stuff here, but like genuinely, like again, if the fist had come up and they'd cut off 2-3 seconds later, perfect. But it's still 9.5 out of 10. It's perfect wrestling nonsense.
I have a question, Colin, that I have to ask you because I think you'll know this, right? So at the very start of the show, there's the cross graphic, right?
Yes.
Is that the origin of the Undertaker's cross? Because like it's the first, like it's at the very start of the show. It's in the intro package, and it's those crosses that we'd see over and over again in the graveyard. Is this the first time he's really been associated with that?
No.
Or was it more kind of like
SummerSlam 94?
So he's been using it that long?
SummerSlam 94 had the cross because it was The Undertaker rising from the grave.
Ah, of course.
And to fight, obviously, the other Undertaker. So there were, I don't know if it was in the graphics, but I remember Superstars, and I remember Ted DiBiase in the graveyard with the Undertaker graphic came up with the Undertaker cross and the Undertaker logo, and it was the Undertaker versus Undertaker at SummerSlam 94. And that's the first time I remember the cross being associated. I could be wrong, but I very much remember that because it led into Undertaker.
This guy doesn't even have a wrestling podcast, and he knows more than us. Fuck this guy.
I have a true crime podcast.
Sitting there in his Nasty Boys t-shirt. He's in a band. He still has all his hair. What the fuck more do you want, man? Like, let us have this one thing, you dickhead.
But no, I mean, it's crazy because that intro package has literally all the stuff that would come back about 10 years later. Because once Undertaker moved into the ministry, a lot of that stuff kind of fell away because he became Ministry Undertaker. And it seems like he had almost nailed this character completely at this point, and he went back to it 10 years later.
But you know what? I think the thing is that, like, this was possibly the most Undertaker-centric pay-per-view since SummerSlam 94.
Right.
Perhaps Undertaker and Bret at the Royal Rumble might have had the cross. I'm not completely sure. But as far as the graveyard... Oh! Cool. No, they didn't have graphics with the fucking Kamala Undertaker vibe at SummerSlam 92, did they?
I love that, though, with him shaving the edges. I really miss like woodworker Undertaker. Oh, amazing.
Do you know what I have to bring up? And you've just reminded me of it. What I love about this pay-per-view so much is, Uncle Paul, I don't want to be buried alive. I don't want to be down there with the spiders and the worms.
Amazing.
Yes, completely forgot about the promos. Because back in the day, I so totally remember those promos. No, you're going to defeat the Undertaker and blah blah blah. But Paul, I don't want to be buried with the spiders and the worms.
So, some of these promos throughout the show were phenomenal. Especially Sid's, obviously. But when I think because I'm such a long time fan of Mick Foley and read all the books and I have all the things, sometimes you forget just how like viscerally good he was. Like
Absolutely.
Really, like that original before the corporate Mankind and before all the comedy and before all that, like. When you think about how over Cactus Jack was, and then he went into WWF and they were like, oh, we want you to do this goofy shit. And he was like, all right, I'm going to do goofy shit, but I'm going to fucking goof the shit out of it. And he was amazing.
Like licking the chair.
Just
after he had like delivered the most one of the most gratuitous chair shots, at least gratuitous sounding chair shots you will hear in a long time. And he absolutely milked it. He took the chair, he brought it to his chest, he looked at it, he laid it down on the apron, put his head down, the camera came close to his face, and then he just licked it. Is one of the best visuals from this pay-per-view. It's just classic.
It's so good. It's so good. And look, you know, we were surprised by this. This did take us by surprise. I'm not gonna lie. I was expecting. I don't know what I was expecting, but it wasn't this.
1996. You were expecting 1996.
I was. I genuinely was. And I mean, this is just a
not even 1996 Mind Games. Like
no, just the absolute
1996 shite.
The absolute drizzling shit. That's what I was expecting.
Yeah, because they charged half as much for these.
Like $14.99.
These in your house pay-per-views, and they were so hit and miss. Like, some of them are actually great, like the Canadian Stampede one.
Absolutely
Amazing. But I mean, what are there's like 15 of these in your houses, and like maybe 10 of them are shite.
But see, I think it's got to do with the quality of look. As I said, there was a lot going on here. There was the unpredictability as well. But I mean, The Undertaker and Mankind had this feud going on for so long that there was such investment in it, and it had a unique spectacle as well. So it wasn't just like it was like I think if the Undertaker had Undertaker Mankind had like a cage match, it still would have been good, but I don't think it would have hit the same way. You know, like even with the Hell in a Cell, which would come 2 years later, the greatest lie ever told. You know, it would.
What I love about the Hell in a Cell 2 years later is that at Buried Alive 96, Mick Foley is like, "Hey, I want you to suplex me off this 2-foot high mound of dirt," and the Undertaker's like, "No, it's too dangerous." 2 years later, Undertaker's like, "Hi, I want you to throw me off this 16-foot cell." And the Undertaker's like, "Yeah, fuck you, Mick."
This might be a ridiculously specific callback, right?
Go on.
But the Raw before SummerSlam 1998.
My God, I love this guy.
Right?
We need you're a regular now.
It's Undertaker and Kane versus Austin Mankind and Kane versus Austin and The Undertaker.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's all like, blah, blah, blah. It's like who's who, and you know, The Undertaker ripping off the thing. And there's the part where The Undertaker literally goes through, his leg goes through the cell, and he's just hanging there. And they milk the shit out of it. And then Vince raises the cage up to protect The Undertaker. I think that is one of the most low-key and like not remembered amazing character moments for SummerSlam 98, as in we were all like, no, The Undertaker and Austin are blah 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 blah, but having seen King of the Ring and seeing Mankind go through it, that The Undertaker was there and he was like, oh, and the leg was gone through, and Austin was there waving a chair around, and McMahon presses the button and the thing raises up. And I don't know if anybody remembers that, but I was watching it recently and I was like, that is so fucking good.
I don't remember that. Oh, sorry, Dara, go ahead.
No, but on that point, I don't remember that specifically, but even in this, Vince is commentating and he loves The Undertaker. It's crazy. It's like Undertaker has always been his boy. Even back in 1996. It's Bookily, yeah. So, lads, we have our legally distinct Bookily term.
And we've checked. It is legally distinct.
It's legally distinct.
Fuck off, Jay Hunter.
But yeah, I mean, nothing sums that up more than the way Vince is with The Undertaker, which is they turn into a feud eventually. But yeah, even in this as well, when Undertaker is being buried, the concern in Vince's voice is there, like, and it's like, whoa, that's a subtle little jab, you know, to come back.
There's nothing more emotive, and there's nothing that'll pull you in more than Vince being actually concerned.
Yeah, yeah.
And people can say as much as they want to about Vince being a shit commentator, but that Vince kind of voice would really pull you into an angle, like.
Exactly. And
have you ever seen Batman Forever?
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
So he puts like a Robin in this cage and whoever else in this cage, and Batman has to choose. I swear to God, if you put Vince's entire family in cages and The Undertaker, he would choose The Undertaker 9 times out of 10, and the only time he wouldn't choose The Undertaker is if Shawn Michaels was in a cage and Vince was particularly horny.
Is that because of the pictures that they have?
Because
Allegedly.
of the pictures that Shawn Michaels has of Vince anally penetrating him with his erect penis.
How about Luger, though? Would Luger not? Look at the vascularity.
Narcissist.
Does the vascularity not figure into that? Look at the vascularity.
'Cause he wouldn't pick Luger because he go, Luger, I'm not gonna save you because I know the fall won't kill you because of your vascularity.
It's so funny because people are always like, Vince was 100% madly in love with Shawn Michaels. Watch any Raw from the early part of 1994. The veins.
Yeah, but it's like people who are like really like overtly aggressively homophobic,
Yes.
and then they go home and fuck a twink.
Absolutely.
Like Vince was like, oh, I love beef, oh, I love veins, oh, I love meat, and then you go back to the house and you go, oh, Sean, show me your scrawny arse.
And on that note, on that very visceral, vasculary note, I think we're gonna leave it there, lads. So look, we usually give the show a rating, but I think it at least
B
8 out of
plus.
10. B plus, yeah, 8 out of 10. Nearly strong a 9 there. It's just missing one or two things that would give it like perfect across the board. But Colin and Tristan, well done, lads. You guys picked an absolute banger of a show to go there. But what rating would you guys give this? So me and Martin gave ours.
I give it an 8. I'd almost give it a 9. But the reason why I wouldn't go, no, I give it an 8, and I wouldn't go to the 9 or the 10 because at the time, this show was actually panned.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Because it was a whole load apart as regards Meltzer, and this is very, very interesting. He was like a whole load of matches with little build, no heat, but with great work rate. And I can't, for that reason, give it a higher grade than a C.
Oh wow!
So there you go, and that's very, very telling in 2022.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because he was mad about like.
Do you know that would have been a B in the Pokio Dome?
Absolutely.
The Pokio Dome.
The Pokio Dome.
Absolutely.
Sorry. The rum's getting to me.
I love the pay-per-view. Apart from apparently the match that pretty much you guys liked more than I did, which was the Owen Hart and British Bulldog match versus the Smoking Guns. Probably because I've seen the one before that, which I preferred. I actually liked pretty much every single match on the card, and I liked Vader against Sid as a powerbomb match / wrestler crap / pretty decent. And I loved the main event, and I loved the opener, and I actually really, really enjoyed Mark Merrill versus Goldust. So it's a very, very high on my list.
Very cool. And Tristan?
Easily 7.5 or 8. Like it can't be a 10 because like Mania 17's a 10, and this is
that's true.
But like
that's true.
Like it's barely even a pay-per-view because it's so short. So like you can't like you can't call it like a perfect 10, but like it's.
To be fair, though, I think that's a positive. The short, it's short and sweet. Like,
I mean, it depends. Like, in terms of a pay-per-view, yes, you don't want to be sat there for 7 hours. But at the same time, if you're throwing down money for something, you want something substantial.
Do you remember WrestleMania was 14 hours?
But Martin and Dara, what I will ask you guys, right, is if you watch these pretty much from this one on, 2 hours until it went 3 hours. The 2 hours are at a breakneck speed, and you will see that with JR and fake Diesel and fake fucking Razor, like coming out. The whole thing is like so fast paced.
Yeah.
Like if this was a 2-hour episode of Raw with like 5, like 3 stars to 4.5-star matches, plus a whole load of mad shit going on with JR's mic, and you would say that was an A episode of Raw for the time.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And one of the major problems I have with the WWE pay-per-views today is that there is so much shit that happens between matches.
It's so
that
slow.
Oh my god, it drags up. Like Okay, so fair enough. AEW has its problems, but AEW would have a 4-hour pay-per-view with like 12 matches on it, right? WWE would have a 3-hour pay-per-view with 5 matches on it, and it drives me mad. Like there's like easily between the finishing bell of one match and then and the starting bell of the next match, there's easily 20 minutes. It drives
It's
me mental.
unbearable.
Yeah.
And this thing just bang.
Flew.
Oh,
Less is more when it's done correctly. And I mean, yeah, I can see why 2 hours. I can see your point, Tristan, where like 2 hours can feel like you've been cheated. But if it's 2 hours well spent, that's perfect. But
I love those 2 hours. Like if this was 3 hours, it would start to drag on a bit. I think.
Yeah, exactly.
There'd be some filler match, or like the Buried Alive match would like keep going, and I didn't need to go on. It's like it's still like I can't give it a 10 like a perfect pay per view, because like it's not the perfect pay per view, but it is true. A very good Raw.
Absolutely. And look, even if this had been if this had been one of the pay per views that we're talking about in 2005, let's say, where it suffered from that exact thing where they had one match but it was all filler and it had to be 3 hours. That kind of stuff turned people off wrestling, because it's like it doesn't have to be 3 hours, but at that point it was already established and people would have felt like they'd been shortchanged. So, I mean, it's funny because if this had been this pay-per-view, if this had been WWE, right, and Nitro was kicking its ass at this point as well. So, I mean, that's probably why they're like, what we need to win. And by them needing to win, I think that this probably was, I'm going to say this probably was the perfect WWE product. This probably was it.
But Dara, it was 100% superior to what WCW gave out at the time.
Oh, absolutely.
Halloween Havoc 1998, which had 2 amazing matches, which was Jericho and Malenko and Rey Mysterio and fucking X-Pac.
Yeah.
And a brilliant set.
And Hulk Hogan's toupee. Hulk Hogan's inexplicable toupee. But apart from that, people look back for 2 good matches on Halloween Havoc 1996.
Did we do a film review?
We did. Yeah, where the dog gets thrown in the water for no reason.
We did a film review of some of Hulk Hogan's matches recently, and there's one where Hulk Hogan, for some reason, wearing a toupee, takes on the IRA. What was it called?
I'm holding up a DVD of No
Holds Barred.
But No Holds Barred is actually Hulk Hogan versus the IRA. So
there's a what was it? I'm actually gonna. What was the name of the movie we reviewed recently?
I can't remember, man.
Oh man, I sent Dara a gif of it. It's so terrible. It's amazingly worth watching. There's a bit in it where Hogan walks up to his this woman he's broken up with, and he's like, "Hey, I see you're getting on all right without me." She's like, "I've moved on." Whatever your name, Hogan. I'm just gonna say Hogan. That's I've moved on, Hogan. I've moved on. I'm doing well for myself. And Hogan goes, "Yeah, I knew you never needed me." And she's like,
"Let me tell you something,
I'm doing whatever." And then Hogan turns around and it's raining, and he goes to walk away in the rain, like all sad. And then he turns around and he goes, "Oh yeah, one more thing." And then he just holds up a ring. He just holds up a ring and goes, "Want to marry me?"
No, I think he says, "Want to hold on to this for a little while?"
Oh, do you want to hold on? Oh, it's the most ridiculous. Hold on, I'm going to look this up. It's the most ridiculous thing. The whole time I was watching it, I kept sending Dara and Dave like gifs from it.
You know what
color knee pads was he wearing?
You know what she should have done? She should have said the whole lines the way Ultimate Warrior did. Hulk.
Hogan.
Okay, right.
Hogan.
Right, lads, we're going to play a game. Right,
Go
we're
on.
going to play a game. So this, I have it here in front of me. This Hulk Hogan movie, it's from 1998.
Okay.
It is the most 1998 action movie name you've ever heard. So I'm going to give you each one guess at what you might think.
Okay, I'm not going to Google it. I think I know what it is, but I won't guess first. I'll let someone else guess.
Right, I'm going to start with Tristan. The most 1998 action movie name. What do you think?
It has to be a one-word name, and it has to be like an adjective of a name, or like not like a noun. Like it's a word of a name.
Smelly.
Or like something like redemption, but not redemption.
Redemption's
hard. Just
good guess. Redemption's a good guess. Colin, what do you think?
Retribution.
Oh,
was it?
No.
Was it? No, I was going to say because
you're both wrong.
The latest one I know is Attack from Witch Mountain, and the only reason I know it is because 7 days after Buried Alive, he wore the same wig that he wore in Attack from Witch Mountain on the fucking pay-per-view against Macho Man Randy Savage.
But everybody knows what he looks like.
Well, this is a short-haired Hogan.
Oh, can I guess? Can I guess?
Dara, what do you think?
Okay, was it Maximum Impact? Or sorry, Maximum Overdrive. Is that what it was?
Oh, Dara, that's such a great guess. But
was that what it was? Was that what it was?
No, but it's along the right lines. But it's not.
Damn! I thought that's what it was. Right, what was it? Go on.
1998 Hulk Hogan action movie. When this is amazing. When mercenary hardball cutter discovers that the team he is working with is actually a group of IRA gun runners, he decides to put a stop with their plans. Furious with Cutter, the gun runners target him, his partner, and his family, and the film is called The Ultimate Weapon.
Ah. The Ultimate Weapon.
The Ultimate Weapon.
Because it's about guns, and he's also a weapon.
Well, yes, are the guns the ultimate weapon, or in fact is hardball Cutter the ultimate weapon?
You know, and people are like,
Colin, you're really going to have to say that again because I went for a pee.
Colin ran off for a wank, so I'm going to have to read again. So the summary is: when mercenary hardball Cutter discovers that the team he is working with is actually a group of IRA gun runners.
Jesus Christ.
He decides to put a stop to their plans. Hulk Hogan is a unionist, confirmed. Hulk Hogan votes DUV.
Well, let me tell you something, Jerry.
I'm even more proud now that I'm blocked by Hulk Hogan. Notable racist Hulk Hogan.
No way.
Yeah, he blocked me on Twitter.
Do you know who else he blocks? Jerry Adams.
Jerry Adams.
Furious.
Jerry Adams.
You what?
I actually blocked by Jerry Adams.
What did you do?
Because I said, "Come to Ireland, you sexy bastard," to one of his tweets. I repeated, and he blocked me. So
maybe he was thinking, "I'm already in Ireland."
That's
you sexy bastard.
But to be fair, I was being an absolute prat, so it's okay.
I'm proud I was blocked by Hogan because I was calling out the racism.
Ah, yeah.
And then he blocked me.
So
I said something like, you know who else used HH at the end of his tweets? Another notable racist.
Oh, Hunter Hearst.
Hitler. Adolf Hitler, brother.
So furious with Cutter, the gun runners target him, his partner, and his family. And the name of the movie is The Ultimate Weapon.
Which are the shears, because the shears are a part of me.
The movie, by the way, is available for free if you've Prime Amazon or Amazon Prime, and I definitely recommend you get drunk and watch it.
And apparently we did a show on it that I don't remember, but we will put it back up on feed.
Is The Ultimate Weapon not Elizabeth's little swimsuit? That was the secret weapon.
Don't even talk to me about. I did a whole thing about people talking about if you had a time machine, who would you go back in time and raid? And I was like, Elizabeth in the 80s, Sonny in the 90s, and Maud Gone in the 1900s.
I feel like raiding. I feel like you could combine those two, and Maud Gone and Elizabeth combined would be Sherry riding you in 1989. Martin, look into the eye of the madness. They're calling up. You, sensational queen.
Oh my god. Aaron, Dara, we have to keep this cunt on retainer.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
This is going to be a 5-hour podcast. I'm watching the time here.
This is typical. This is typical for Dara starts every podcast like really hopeful. I was like, all right, Martin, be a tight 60 minutes, tight 90 minutes.
Well, if you want to take next week off, I could probably go till about.
And then it always ends up at like 2 a.m. at Dara going, that's all we've got, folks.
One thing I do want to say to you, right? And I did want to say from the start, this pay-per-view, right, was a really, really interesting one for me because I had stopped watching wrestling about the end of 1994. But my uncle owned a shop where I would keep on buying, had a subscription to, shit, it's Off the Ropes now. It was the wrestling magazine at the time.
Right.
And basically, from what I was reading about the NWO and blah, 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 I ended up getting back into wrestling. And the first wrestling pay-per-view I watched after I got back into it was Survivor Series 1996 with Shawn Michaels, Jose Lothario hitting, Sid hitting Shawn Michaels with the camera, and I needed to fill in the blanks.
Right.
So the reason that I picked Buried Alive 1996 was because it was the first ever mail order Coliseum video that I ever ordered.
Wow. So that's how long you have the tape?
That's how long I have that tape. And that's how long, basically it was after WrestleMania 13 that we got the WWF magazine with the order off page. And I got my mom to fill out the page and then waited for weeks because I didn't think it was actually turn up.
Right.
And she had to actually literally write a check,
No
put
way.
it in the envelope and send it off.
Wow.
So there was a little bit of emotional gravitas to doing this ridiculously weird but very, very good pay-per-view.
So you could say this show was. Go on.
Go ahead. I was going to say, Colin, you're very handsome, very affable man. But for some reason, every time you say mail order, I keep expecting you to say bride.
Well, listen, you've obviously met Craig. Craig, the annoying little gay that follows me everywhere. You've had your first go on
uncovered
podcast there.
I was going to say, this show has been 23 years in the making, it seems like.
That's it.
And 23 hours in the reviewing.
So we are going to leave it there at a nice tight nearly 3 hours. So I want to thank you two for being on the show, for putting up with our nonsense. You're both more than welcome anytime you want to come on the show. Just let us know what you want to pick. How can the good folks find you, and what would you like to plug before we finish up?
We're Cell Games everywhere. Specifically, the handles on Instagram is at cellgames.mp3. It's _mp3 on Twitter because you can't have a full stop in your handle. We're on YouTube as well. When this is on, this part's only going to be on the podcast anyway. So when the podcast is out, there will be a guitar playthrough on our YouTube of Here's to Your Bones. Here's to Your Bones is on Spotify. There will be new things later in the year as well.
Fantastic.
But we're not plugging those yet because they're not ready. But when they are ready, we will plug them on Instagram where you can follow us.
And do you have an individual Twitter for the band, or is it just Facebook and non-Twitter?
We're on Facebook, and then the band Twitter is cellgames_mp3.
Excellent.
I'm there myself as well, talking about the band on my own Twitter as well.
You do a great job.
What's your Twitter account? Your personal one, Tristan?
It's just Tristan M. Carroll.
And what would you, Colin?
Folks, I am just a regular podcasty person. We have a very popular podcast called Murder Most Irish, which is one of the biggest true crime podcast shows in the country. So please do log on to www.instagram.com/murdermostirish and please buy our tickets for night 3 of our sold out 2 nights in the Sugar Club. We do wrestling related stuff on our Instagram. So on our Patreon. Sorry, I'm very, very drunk. Hi, how are you? My name is Colin, and I'm the producer of a podcast called Murder Most Irish, and also a member of the band Cell Games.
People who aren't, people who are like listening to this, like,
yeah,
we're on a Skype call, so we're watching this, and I gotta say, Colin has been impressively powering through a bottle of vodka.
I have been,
like really, like
this is how much I've been impressively powering through a bottle of vodka.
Like, and not to show off, but Colin has been.
And God bless you.
Given that bottle of vodka, the Vader business.
This is it.
It's vodka time.
Very, very tactfully trying to pour it into this glass all this time.
But
anyway,
Colin looked at that bottle of vodka and said, I drank another bottle of vodka last Friday and I haven't washed my gear since then.
This is it. But it's interesting because I don't drink at the Cell Games gigs because Tristan and his girlfriend give me the side eye. So I can only drink on things like this. But I actually do work for a podcast called Murder Most Irish. I'm the producer, and we do have a Patreon where we cover.
Have you done the Dino Bravo murder?
We haven't done. Weird that you should say that because the Dino Bravo murder is on the next run of the month's Patreon. So we've done Jimmy Snuka. We've done a talk about Chris Candido and Sonny's latest Dark Side of the Ring episode, and we started off this whole crack with the Chris Benoit / woman thing that happened. So yes, Murder Most Irish, and we do cover a lot of wrestling related topics.
Well, definitely go over, check that out. I'm actually going to subscribe to that because it sounds rad. And Cell Games, they're a phenomenal band, fantastic lads. And you find us here. We'll be back next week. Martin, I don't know what we're going to cover. We'll probably finally finish.
I'm going to do it, Dara. I know you don't want to, but I'm going to hold you down, and we're going to watch the final Cyber Sunday.
We are. So that's going to be next week. And
because if we don't, it's never going to end.
Folks, I do have to ask you something. Are you guys going to AEW in London?
You are so drunk. I just told you earlier that I cannot wait to go.
Okay.
Do you know how much I can't wait to go?
He has
My
2
girlfriend.
tickets.
I have 2 tickets for
tickets
just for me. Although I keep offering one to Dara, trying to entice him to come. But this is much I can't wait to go. So I've got even though I live in a particularly loyalist area of Belfast, I have a big Irish flag in my window. I keep the curtains closed. And I've got my girlfriend who's a wee bit arty, and what she's doing is, so there's obviously the Irish flags, green, white, and orange. So it's green, white, and on the orange part, she's doing this awesome stencil outline of Orange Cassidy. So
hold on a minute, Martin. Hold on.
I'll be holding that up.
Hold on.
What's this?
We agreed on this last week that we were all going to have mail for Sam.
Oh, on the other side of it's going to say Mayo for Sam.
Because none of us are from Mayo, and it's funnier that way.
Yeah, we're gonna confound and confuse the English with a huge sign that just says Mayo for Sam.
Are going both dressed as Orange Cassidy, so you have to. Because obviously I'm a Jim Cornette guy, but I'm a Jim Cornette guy who fucking loves Orange Cassidy. So we must meet up at Wembley and do a wee drop in for the podcast at some stage.
I think that's the most. I think I have to go now, Martin. I think I have to go now.
100%. Yeah.
100%.
So there we go. You've twisted my arm. I have to go now.
Twisted your arm.
But yeah, we're definitely going to be there. So absolutely,
awesome.
let's do a kind of an impromptu over. Do you know what? Before,
over Skype,
after
in the same room.
Let's do it on Skype.
After the event, it's probably going to be a nightmare trying to get everywhere. But if we meet up before into a pub, rally a pints,
yes,
there we
talk
go.
Shit. Well up for that.
Because you want to know something funny, and right, for all your listeners who are struggling to get hotels for AEW, buy yourself an ABBA hotel plus screening of ABBA Voyage tickets, because they're all available, and the ABBA wrestling crossover is very, very small. So if you want to get yourself,
what a fucking scoop!
If you're like, oh, I'm buying my ticket too late and I want to get to go to the thing, just go to abbavoyage.com/hotel packages.
What a fucking scoop!
That's what I did.
Lads,
there we go.
This is why you pay us our X-Pac euro.
Our X-Pac euro, exactly.
Or our Virgil tenor, or our Epsom salt widow fiver.
Absolutely.
Well, folks, on that note, we're going to wrap up. Again, we'll be back next week here on thewrestlingrewind.com. Go check out Cell Games. Go check out the lads. Go check out the Crime Podcast. Give them all the money. We'll be back next week. Talk to there, guys. Bye.
Hurrah.
Thank you for listening to a Nerd to Know Media production.